Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The Ridgewood Village Council. This is a public workshop, October 26, 2022, and the time is 7:30 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled, same as provided by law of a schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Perrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Reynolds.
Here.
Councilman Vagianos.
Here.
Mayor Knudsen.
Here. Please stand for the flag salute. Please join us in a moment of silence for all the men and women serving our great nation, our first responders, and tonight for all Gold Star mothers and families. Thank you. With that, we will go to public comments, not to exceed 3 minutes per person for a total of 40 minutes. Please remember to state your name and address for the record.
Is it on? No, it's
just
on.
Just say testing.
Testing.
You could be testing person tonight.
Testing. How about that?
Perfect. There you go.
All right. Good. So good evening. I'm Cynthia Hallaby, 1 Franklin Avenue. I'm much looking forward to hearing about the Gold Star Mother Memorial this evening. I know my grandmother would have been proud and would have been a member. To her dying day, she waited for my uncle to come home, but he was declared missing in action D-Day +4. You will remember that 2 years ago, the Conservancy for Ridgewood Public Lands completely restored the area around the War Memorial. The cost of our project was about $30,000, which we then gifted to the village. All of this money was raised from residents. Before we started the project, we spent several months consulting with Nancy Bigos, Post 53, a landscape designer, and with other professionals as to what we should do. We felt it was important to get it right. We wanted to open up the area so that the public could use the parkland, and we wanted to have a place for the veterans to hold their ceremonies. We were also very intent on respecting the simplicity of the lines of the memorial. As you know, this simple, single pillar was designed by John Bacon, architect of the Lincoln Memorial. The veterans certainly deserve to have a prominent place to recognize these brave families who have lost family members. I suggest that a small group be formed to study all possibilities, and respectfully, I would be more than happy to be included if you think I could be of help. We need to help this honorable group of veterans set up a memorial that everybody can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Tony Damiano, 274 South Broad Street. I'm also here to comment on the monument. First of all, I want to say what a great idea. Who more deserving than the Gold Star moms to have a monument in our park? I'm also glad to see that it has been relocated because it was kind of in the way of, let's say, our guild events in the Chamber of Commerce when it was on the other side. So I think the location is very good. The design, I think the design is good. However, I think it's a little bit too contemporary to fit into the landscape of our park. Black granite is a very contemporary material, and the idea that it is black lends itself to being heavy, and obviously it's a contemporary design. I believe it was positioned here to tie into the monument behind it, and unfortunately I don't think it's doing that. Although I like the location, I think the finish is kind of opposing what's behind it. I think it needs to be redesigned to have more of that feeling of the traditional values that the monument behind it has. Scale-wise, it is a little small, actually. I believe it's measuring 54 inches tall and 36 inches wide, which is about the size of this podium We're probably about 54 inches here and 36 here. So I just question that the monument behind it is going to dwarf the new monument that we're putting up. So anyway, those are my opinions from a design standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Good evening. Jeannie Johnson, 325 Maston Place. I will choose words and actions that show my respect, kindness, and compassion for all people. Those words were taken from the Upstanders Pledge, an initiative started by the Tyler Clementi Foundation. As many of you know, Tyler was a Ridgewood resident and the target of a severe bullying incident that ultimately took his life 12 years ago last month. It's a story that's known around the world. Since this incident, Tyler's family and friends have urged people to speak out against bullying and bullies. It's interesting to note that just this month, an anti-bullying proclamation was read in this very room. And not a week later, during the candidate debate, we observed our village mayor behaving in ways that are very definitely defined as insulting, inconsiderate, and intimidating. Sadly, that's not the only time we've witnessed behavior like that from her. I, like many Ridgewood residents, volunteers, business owners, and community leaders, have had to suffer the wrath of her unhinged accusations.
I'm going to call a point
We've
of order.
witnessed her
Jeannie,
fondness
I'm
for
going to
speaking
call a
at
point of
people,
order
not
for your
with them.
inappropriate comments,
It's an uncomfortable and
I'll
unsettling
second that. You're not allowed to
experience.
talk about anybody individually on the
Okay,
council.
fine. Some of us have also endured costly legal battles that have been opposed upon us, all to no avail except for the expense to taxpayers. The frivolity of these baseless accusations and lawsuits, in my opinion, is nothing more than political plays to gain power. Effective and inspiring leaders know that when we work respectfully with others, we achieve better results than when we tell them that they're wrong and quite possibly also stupid.
I'm sorry?
While I sympathize that elected leaders are too a target of bullying behaviors, I wonder, do public outbursts and covert activities affect the reputation of our village? My guess is yes. The village of Ridgewood is home to a wonderful group of individuals who crave a leader who appreciates honest conversation, collaboration, and civility. I think it's time to be kind and do good. Thank you.
Rorick Hallaby, 1 Franklin Avenue, and I want to call a point of order for interrupting a wonderful talk from the heart by a wonderful woman who has done nothing but do good for Ridgewood. Okay? Now, Rorick Hallaby, 1 Franklin Avenue. Kudos to the League of Women Voters for the debate last week. I attended the debate and listened to it on YouTube. The debate was like looking at an X-ray of Ridgewood politics. It made me think of a famous Clint Eastwood movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. One candidate at the debate referred to a petition signed by 50 CBD merchants voicing their opposition to the pedestrian mall. Has anyone seen this petition? Has anyone seen this petition? I will be filing an Oprah to get a copy of the petition if one exists. Does it exist? The same candidate made fun of the children of another candidate. Nothing cute about such a comment. In fact, I think it is mean-spirited. The same candidate patted themselves on the back for the $700,000 of savings they were singularly responsible for when the BOE budget was voted down a couple of years ago. And the fact that the saving was going to carry yearly into the future in perpetuity. First, the budget cut was more like $600,000, and there's no way it was going to carry on in perpetuity. All but $60,000 came from cuts in maintenance and capital expenditures. Please don't shake your head. If you have different numbers, give them to me. Okay?
Free country, I'm allowed to shake my head.
Yeah.
It's my
Okay,
opinion.
and then I'm allowed to then point my finger at you.
You go ahead and point.
Okay? I need more time. As you know, $1 in maintenance deferred today means $2 of expenses tomorrow. The same candidate in their comments and Mailer harps of them being the line of defense between the Ridgewood we love and the vandals out to destroy it. Ironic coming from someone who has done more to destroy Ridgewood in the past 6 years than I have seen in 52 years of living here. And I don't take the word destroy lightly. From the historic Pocket Park at the train station that was paved over, and the 16 trees that were cut down, all the way to Shedler. Yes, I can go on and on and on. And speaking of Shedler, does anyone really think we will have a playing field by the spring of 2023?
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hallaby.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Corporate Council, and the Village Clerk Manager. Russell Forenza, 228 Emmett Place, Ridgewood, New Jersey, 074502803-281. The statement prior to the last statement, I completely disagree. I never heard of anything like that in my life about the mayor, so it's got to be garbage. I want to say something, and I don't know because unfortunately I don't read the newspapers anymore because they're all too liberal. But people have come to me and said that there's a person running for council that had a previous job in New York City as an attorney for the Southern District. As we all know, the Southern District is very liberal. And the concerns are all the people that come out of that Southern District, he was an Obama appointee, first of all, they want to defund the police. They want no bail for criminals. They like to release prisoners, no matter what their standing is, they want to release them and let them out of jail. And then they come back and commit more crimes. These people are for a woke school system where you can teach the kids in kindergarten about any sex act they want to know right up through grade school, which is unbelievable, but it is being taught now by the Democratic administration, approved by the state of New Jersey with the governor and the Assembly and the Senate with the majorities are Democrats. There's no parental control. They don't want parents to control any of the kids that are in the school. They belong to the school and the state. Who ever heard of such things? Unless you're in Germany or Russia or places like that prior to World War I and II. It's ridiculous that we have to have people that act like this. So if this is true, and again, I don't know if this is true, but if this is this person that's running for council, he ought to resign right now and not run for council. Because I don't think Ridgewood needs anybody like that more than what we already have in the school systems and everything else. The state is run completely wrong and everything about the state. They got plenty of money down there, and they're not using it, just to give you an example, to reduce the pensions that was in debt since Christy Whitman put it in, and she was a Republican, but followed by every single Republican and Democrat after that by not funding the pensions. They should fund those pensions with that kind of money, and they should let the municipalities do what they need with the money also. So again, what was said about the mayor I find completely hysterical. But if this person that's running for council is that type of a person, district attorney appointed by Obama that has these left-wing conspiracies in his heart, I don't know if he's spoken about these or not, but that person should not be running for council. Thank you very much and have a good evening, everybody. And also the monument is an excellent thing. I think the size and everything may be because of funds and allocations that is needed to fund certain things, but whatever the case may be. But it's an excellent idea, and Bob Pioli, the commander, does an excellent job for the thank you time.
Thank you, Russ. Anyone else? Okay. No other takers. All right, good. We're going to close public comment. So, and I am going to address a few issues. Are we still beeping? No. I just want to make sure that everyone, hang on one second. Okay, you want to check to see if that's broadcasting, because I think it's being told now. Sorry, everyone. Do you want me to wait till you come back? Okay. I'm just going to hold my comments for a moment until we check our broadcasting. Appreciate everyone's patience, mine included. Yeah, it's not broadcasting. I'm sorry, everyone. We're just trying to make sure that it's broadcasting at home. Apologies for the delay. And we just want to wait for the village manager to return to her seat while she resolves that matter. Oh, good. Okay. Very good. All right. I would tell everyone at home thanks for their patience and just give it a second, but they're not seeing us anyway, so it won't work. All right, so a couple of things. I'm going to address some of these public comments. First, I was unaware that the American Legion proposal was distributed to anyone other than the Village Council. I'm a little surprised to hear any member of the public already had access to it and had such detailed information in advance of allowing the American Legion Post 53 the courtesy of presenting appropriately to the Village Council. A little surprising to me. Cynthia Hallaby, thank you. It's a very generous offer. Hopefully everyone will take you up on that. Now I want to talk about bullying. The comments that were made by Ms. Johnson were offensive, inappropriate, and entirely inaccurate. Ms. Johnson, during the debate, sat in the front row, pointing at me, slapping her knee, and laughing. That's bullying. Ms. Johnson, on September 20th, posted on her Ridgewood Walks page that the Shedler project is $7 million over budget, mismanaged, and spearheaded by this mayor. I texted Ms. Johnson immediately and said, the information you posted is inaccurate. She never bothered responding. She never bothered correcting. She bothered with nothing because it didn't suit her narrative. Ms. Johnson sits here as a judge of people when she herself should listen to her comments at this meeting just now and consider what she did here tonight as the ultimate bullying behavior. Shame on Ms. Johnson, the biggest bully in the room tonight. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is the debate. I will stand by my comments. It was the candidate who invoked her children as being home, watching TV, and calling into Village Council meetings. I checked the record, and I was entirely accurate. I may not have had serial accurate, but I was entirely accurate as to who it was that invoked her children calling in during hybrid meetings. So with that, hopefully we can all carry on, but I think it's very unfortunate that a member of the public just came to this microphone and behaved in such an unconscionable and reprehensible manner. And I just want to remind everyone that this meeting, we do have rules of decorum. They are part of our village code, and we hope everyone will adhere to those. If you don't like the debate activity, it was a debate. It wasn't a coffee. It wasn't tea. We weren't having cocktails. It was a debate. So with that, we will now go on to the manager's report. Thank you, Heather.
Sure. I just want to remind everyone, which I've done several times already, but November 8th is our election. Polls are open 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's a general election for various federal, state, county, and local offices, including village council. If you have questions about the election, please contact the village clerk's office at 201-670-5500, extension 2205. The annual leaf flyer has been mailed out to all village residents. It's a bright yellow postcard. It states the leaf placement dates for all areas. As a reminder, you can place the leaves during those dates that are on the postcard. After those dates, don't place them again until the next set of dates listed on the postcard. You can also go onto the village website, which is ridgewoodnj.net. You can click on the yard waste and leaf collection tile, and that will give you any updates. The Parks Department and Downs Tree Service is still searching for the perfect tree for this year's holiday season. The tree should be a tall, evenly proportioned, easily accessible, with no electric wires near the tree, evergreen tree. If you or someone you know has a tree like this, please call our Parks Department at 201-670-5565 and speak to the Secretary, Dina Catt, to give her all of the information about the tree. Upcoming events, October 29th, there's a Halloween Haunted Harvest, which is a free family event. It's sponsored by the Ridgewood Chamber of Commerce. It's an event held in Memorial Park at Van Ness Square from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on October 29th. There'll be a haunted graveyard, a maze. Ben & Jerry's will be there, and there'll be a Halloween parade for children and pets that are dressed up. Ridgewood's annual Health and Resource Fair for older adults is on November 3rd, I believe, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Come to the Ridgewood Community Center to hear Care Coordinator of Bergen County Division of Bergen County present an introduction to services for older adults and caregivers. For more information, call 201-670-5500, extension 2312. The Ridgewood Senior Bus will provide transportation to this event for our older adults. Please call in advance to make a reservation. Again, the main number, extension 2203. November 11th, Veterans Day, 11 a.m. at Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. American Legion Post 53 will be hosting a Veterans Day service. All are invited to attend to honor those who have served in the armed services to protect our freedom. November 11th, also, all village departments and offices will be closed in observance of Veterans Day. That means there will be no garbage or recycling pickup on that day, and the recycling center will also be closed. Please check your village calendars, as your garbage and recycling pickups may change that week due to the holiday. November 13th is the annual Giving Thanks Ridgewood Elder Dinner. It's an in-person sit-down dinner to be held at the Old Paramus Reformed Church from 3 to 5 p.m. Registration is required. It's limited to the first 90 guests. We may have already reached that, but you can certainly call the Recreation Office at 201-670-5560, and they can let you know whether or not it's been filled. November 19th, we have a drive-through mobile shredding event. It'll be at the Graydon Pool parking lot from 9 a.m. to 12:30 or until the truck is full. I do encourage you to go earlier in the day because the truck often is full before 12:30. Please stay in your vehicle with no walk-ups. Put your documents in your trunk. The village will bring it over to the shredder. It's called confidential shredding. Place items for shredding in a paper bag or a cardboard box only. No plastic bags are allowed, and the limit is 4 file-size boxes per vehicle. This is free to all Ridgewood residents and businesses. The Village Council upcoming meetings are broadcast live from the Village Hall courtroom, on Village website, and Channel 34 on FiOS, and also on YouTube. The work sessions are November 2nd and December 7th at 7:30 p.m., and then on November 9th and December 14th are the public meetings. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. The Central Business District Advisory Committee met, and we discussed the master plan and the food truck events that sometimes happen in town, and the fact that some restaurants take exception to the competition from food trucks, and perhaps in the future food trucks could be considered for types of food that we don't serve in the Central Business District, such as German food or Mexican food or lobster rolls. And also, we had a field trip to Summit, New Jersey, to see how they deal with parking and store vacancies, and we learned an awful lot, and we'll be discussing what we observed at our next meeting, which will be the second Thursday in November, and that is via Zoom. If you would like to come, it is certainly open to the public, and I can give you the link. Also, I take exception to the commenters' comments about the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York. Having worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York for 11 years as an assistant U.S. attorney, and here in New Jersey in the U.S. Attorney's Office, I can assure you that it is not a group of wild-eyed liberals. In fact, it's a rather conservative group, and we served the U.S.
Just point of order, please, should allow the Deputy Mayor to speak.
There is no more dedicated group of public servants, and I am proud to be an alumna of the U.S. Attorney's Office in both states for 30 years, and no, I will not resign.
Okay. We really have an exciting meeting here tonight. Oh my God. Okay. All right. Councilman Vagianos.
Thank you, Susan. I met with the Parks and Recreation Committee last night, and several interesting things to report, all momentous. The village went out to bid on fall tree plantings, and within the next few weeks, the Parks Department will be planting 88 new trees in our Central Business District and an additional 182 trees in the residential areas throughout the village. And we anticipate that while it will start in the next few weeks, it will be done before the end of the year. And I think we're all very excited about that. Also, Citizens Parking Lot had an upgrade from 7 to 21 parking spaces, which during any Little League game is always greatly appreciated. It is currently under construction and should be completed soon. And I'd like to thank the Conservancy for Ridgewood Public Lands that recently completed its beautification project on North Broad Street near the taxi stand. Thank you to all who participated in that, and I urge everyone to please stop by, or as you drive by, take a quick look and see what's going on. Downtown for the holidays, as Heather pointed out, will be on Friday, December 2nd from 5:30 to 8:30. Certainly one of my favorite nights of the year. The Parks Department will be sponsoring, as they did last year, bonfires and s'mores in Van Ness Park. So I know many of you don't like s'mores, which is fine, so I will get them all. And as the village manager mentioned, we are still searching for the perfect Christmas tree. I want to stress that for anyone who has a tree in their yard that is now larger than they would like it to be, we will take it down and take it away and take out the stump and reseed the area so that it is perfect and beautiful at no cost to the homeowner. And this is done by the largesse of Downs Tree Service. So if you have such a tree and you would consider donating it, it should be somewhere between 40 and 60 feet tall. If you took a picture of it and sent it to Dina Cat at the number that Heather mentioned, you could also send it to me. My cell number is 201-755-6465. So it's really a very cool thing to have your tree be the Christmas tree that we all celebrate with. And again, as Heather mentioned, the Parks Department is sponsoring the Elder Dinner on November 13th at the Old Paramus Church on East Glen Avenue. It's always a wonderful event. And finally, join with me in congratulating the Parks Department on celebrating their 40-year anniversary at the stable. It was opened in May of 1982, and for those of you who don't know, not only was it renovated, it was moved. That is not the original location of the stable, and the Parks Department is having a celebration, come one, come all, on December 8th at 5:30. Please come and join us. It's going to be a very nice evening. Thank you, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilwoman Reynolds.
Thank you, Mayor. The Planning Board met on October 18th. We continued hearing the application for the Bethlehem Evangelical Lutheran Church on 155 Linwood Avenue for preliminary and final site plan approval for paving and striping the existing parking lot, lighting improvements, and changes to the landscaping. The application was approved with certain conditions. The conditions are they will be putting shields on the lights that are on the building so the light does not travel into the neighbors' yards. A landscaping plan to restore the buffer between the parking lot and the neighbors' properties. 2 out of the 5 building lights that are on 24/7 will be shut off at 10:30. The parking lot lights will be shut off at 10:30 as well. Signs will be put up to state that no idling is allowed, because apparently a lot of people idle for a half hour, 45 minutes, while their kids are inside and they're just in their car. And the last one, if it is deemed required, they will have EV charging stations. It was questionable whether it would be required for a repaving versus a new lot, which we know it would be required. We also continued the public hearing for the master plan. Our village planner, John Beret, took in all of the comments that were submitted, made some changes, mostly adding pictures and fixing punctuation and grammatical errors. John also will be adding a picture of the butterfly garden behind the stable, because that was missing. The planning board unanimously passed the Village of Ridgewood master plan. Hooray! A long time in the making. We were very happy, and it's a great document. There was also a discussion regarding permitted signage in our highway commercial zone. The idea would be to help the businesses in that zone become more visible to motorists passing by on Route 17. The suggestions have been forwarded to the council, and that will be a discussion for us tonight. Our next planning board meeting is November 1st. Citizen Safety Advisory Committee met on October 20th. The Franklin Avenue corridor, update on that. The county is planning to repave it between North Maple and North Broad Street in mid-November. That is weather dependent. Hopefully they will get it in. The ADA compliant ramps have been under construction. I'm not sure if they have been finished yet. I've been away for a few days, but hopefully they're finished and the road is ready to be repaved. Other roads scheduled for repaving in 2023 by the county would be Goffel Road, Godwin Avenue, and Linwood Avenue. Prospect Street will also be done in 2022, weather permitting, and North Monroe is planned for 2023. Safe Routes to School grants from the New Jersey DOT have been approved for $148,000, and construction is expected in 2023. There was a discussion about West Glen Avenue sidewalks, especially the section that is from North Maple to the railroad overpass, because that area was not in the original plan of the Glen Avenue sidewalks. Engineering is looking at it right now. They're going to estimate design, and they're going to estimate the costs of and the design requirements, because some of the area is going to be really hard, because like rock walls, etc. There's certain areas that are flat and other areas that are going to be tough. So a cost estimate is being prepared for future capital budget consideration. The intersection of Morningside Road and Hamilton Road was evaluated by the engineering department, and they have concluded there are insufficient warrants for any changes in traffic control measures for that area. The cross-hatching at Ackerman Avenue and Doremus Avenue was also reviewed by the Traffic Bureau and Engineering. They note that no problems with the existing measures there are no problems currently there, and they are not supportive of any changes at this time. A resident came to the meeting and cited numerous examples of triangle site obstructions on corners in Ridgewood. He will furnish a list to the engineering department for their review. And just so everybody knows, if someone is found in violation, the current procedure would be to notify the property owners, provide a sketch, the village would provide a sketch of the setback requirements. They would request of the homeowner a voluntary remediation, and if the homeowner did not do anything, then actions would be taken by the village. Since many residents may not be aware of the site triangle provisions, it was suggested to feature the site triangle and clearance requirements in an upcoming Village e-News. Heather, I don't know, is that possible to do something like that? Put it in the e-News, show people a diagram of, if they're on a corner, the site requirements?
As long as the engineering provides that to me, I can certainly include that with an e-notice, yes.
Okay, thanks. Union Street Engineering is checking the schedule of the thermoplastic markings contractor to add more one-way arrows in the road, because a lot of people go down that the wrong way. There was also some concern about jaywalking between the railroad station parking lot and the West Ridgewood Avenue during the Oktoberfest a couple of weeks ago. Mr. Rudishauser is going to ask the Traffic Bureau for input and the desire of adding crossing control for any future events there. Another resident suggested a four-way stop at the intersection of East Ridgewood Avenue and Broad Street. The engineer said warrants for a four-way stop, as detailed in the manual uniform traffic control services, were not satisfied. In other words, in his opinion, they don't have the warrants to demand a four-way stop sign, and he could not recommend that. Let's see. Is that it? I have so many pages. Jeez. Oh, the last thing. Project Pride Committee is going to be emptying the planters in the downtown of the dead plants on Sunday, November 6th. I hope if anybody wants to volunteer, they email me or give me a call. We can always take more volunteers. Thank you. We're starting probably between 7:30 or 8 on Sunday, November 6th. If it's supposed to rain on Sunday, we're going to do it on Saturday, November 5th. But the downtown, it's easier to work in the downtown on Sunday morning. It's less crowded. Thank you.
You're done?
I think.
Okay, great. All right, so I don't have too much to report. Stop and Shop did have a grand opening the other day. Everybody should stop in, say hello, look at the new layout. It's a little difficult to find certain things, but you might stumble on something fun and new and exciting that you didn't know Stop and Shop had. So I did. So please do stop by and support our local businesses. The downtown tree planting, I'm very excited about that. I just want to point out that many of the trees over the years had died as a result of improper planter systems. So we worked over the past few years to clean up the tree wells and to make certain that any trees we planted would survive. So this is a long-term project, and it's finally happening. So we're very, very excited about that. It's something that I worked on along with former Deputy Mayor Seaton. Let me see. The resolution to the master plan is a formal administrative procedure, and the resolution to the church will be on the November 1st planning board meeting. Let's see what else. The Franklin Avenue corridor we're really excited about as well, because this was a negotiation we had with the Bergen County, I believe in 2017, and we adopted a shared service agreement last year. So Franklin Avenue is coming along, and we anticipate that it will be a much improved streetscape with safety features, pedestrian and vehicular safety features that are important to these upgrades. The one thing that is also important to note is that we are in an eminent domain process. We've been for quite some time with the town garage, with the anticipation of a plan for a park along the frontage of Franklin Ave and hopefully a reconfigured Walnut Street parking lot behind that. So very quickly, I'm just going to ask our village attorney to give a little update on that process, if you're good with that, Matt.
Yeah, as I just explained to the mayor, I was in touch with the attorney who's handling the eminent domain action for the village with regard to the purchase of the town garage property. And we're at the stage at this point in time where we're looking at the environmental aspects of the necessary cleanup for this property. Council for the village has been in touch with the representative from the town garage, and I believe that has given them a very limited time, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, as they told me today, to respond with regard to the environmental process and what's necessary for their cleanup of their property before the legal action is instituted. And this is necessary to make sure that, as one of the requirements for eminent domain, is that good faith efforts are made to try and work out the terms of a transaction. And if they fail, then the resort is to take it into the court. So this is the last effort to try and see if make sure that we satisfy that good faith effort before the legal action is started. So that's where we are.
So great. Thanks, Matt. So just as everyone understands, the Franklin Avenue streetscape has been something we've been working on for quite some time. I think the eminent domain process, we had funding in there since 2017 or 18 for that property. And it will be a much improved streetscape. That blighted property will hopefully just be nothing more than a memory. And with that, I did want to, something that was stated during public comment, I do want to respond to as well. I had been remiss in not doing so. The question about a petition that was mentioned at the debate, the petition is not a public record. It's not anything that this village council or anyone else ever discussed. The petition was done by a private group and handed to me because it's something that we had an interest in. So it is a petition of 50 local businesses opposing both the dining corrals and pedestrian mall. And as a reminder, the Welcome to Ridgewood Committee was formed to implement strategies to help restaurants get through the pandemic time, which was difficult due to social distancing mandates, making it difficult for restaurants to actually operate in small spaces with fulfilling those social distancing requirements. So it was something that was done specifically for restaurants, and the restaurants with corrals and the restaurants in the plaza actually did quite well, while the restaurants outside of the plaza or the mall and businesses both inside and outside did not do so well. So there is, that petition does exist, unfortunately, and I just don't want to see anybody take time that's unnecessarily of village staff. It's not a public document. It is a petition that was done by a private group of businesses in our central business district. So with that,
Mayor,
yes.
What group conducted this petition? If we wanted to get a copy, how would we get a copy?
It's a group of businesses, and the interesting question about this is that just like we saw someone come here, actually I'll go to Facebook. On social media, I was essentially called a liar by actually the earlier speaker, questioning whether or not a petition exists, wanting the names of the businesses. Businesses are actually concerned. We had one business who spoke out against this and wound up with threatening phone calls, and really horrible things happened to them. So I think that that's their business, how they want to approach making their information public. It's a petition that was shared with me, and there's no doubt that 50 businesses signed a petition and said, please do not do this to us. We will have to close our stores forever if this continues. So this is a very real petition. In any event, with that, we will go to our presentation for everyone so patiently sitting here. Come on up. Who's doing the presentation? So we have tonight our American Legion, Ridgewood American Legion Post 53, Chris Stout.
Good evening, Chris Stout, 251 Burnside Place in Ridgewood, here on behalf of American Legion Post 53. I will try to be brief. I also, to echo what you said, I'm impressed but also distressed by the fact that my notes for this evening, which were finalized 25 hours ago, barely a day ago, somehow got into the public and have been distributed. Yeah. Let you draw your own conclusions. Mm-hmm. We have been around the world in our due diligence for the Gold Star Families Monument. We thank you and for your patience and continued interest, and have studied comments from the council as well as several members of the Ridgewood community. We're very grateful for the interest shown by so many of you and look forward to moving forward together towards a goal of installing a Gold Star Families Monument in Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. We think we are there, and I am anxious to show you the latest concept we are considering. You remember, perhaps, when we were here last time, we showed you this concept of the monument. There was some discussion, but I felt that basically the council was okay with the design, but there was a problem with the placement. So we have taken that concept and moved it up to the War Memorial.
Excuse me, Chris. Hold on. Heather, is there any possibility we could put a picture of that up on the screen so the members of the audience could see it?
I don't have it electronically.
Does everybody have one of these?
Well, up here we do, but I don't think anybody in the audience.
Well, for those of you who are not on the inside.
10 minutes to do it, so it would take me a few minutes to put it.
Ms. Mailander, is the copy of the new design in the yellow binders?
I believe it is. It should be.
Okay.
All right, okay.
Okay,
All right. Why don't,
Our comments. Okay, that's fine. I believe her.
no,
Now,
I'm sorry, I wasn't
if I
talking
could
about you.
continue.
I wasn't.
Just said to me that I must have seen the design.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I would like to state that I did not see
That's fine.
Okay.
No, we walked up together and she made some comments about the design,
Okay.
which implied
Why
that
don't we
she
just
had.
why don't we just hang on,
Oh,
everybody.
Lord.
Just time out. Cynthia,
say time out. I'm
just
not a child.
God save Ridgewood.
Cynthia, please, just a point of order. Then we're going to have a point of order in this room. We're going to have some organization to this meeting. So I was not referring
If
to
you
you.
don't
I'm
mind,
sorry,
I'd
I
just
didn't
like to
hear the
finish my
comment.
notes, yeah.
So why don't we just please allow American Legion Post 53 the courtesy to do their presentation. Thank you.
We have taken, if you look at what you have here, it's basically the same design concept that we had last time, but we have moved it up and placed it flush against the east side of the existing War Memorial. We envisage this monument to be 4.5 feet tall and anywhere from 2 to 3 feet wide, made out of black granite. The existing chains around the War Memorial will be altered to accommodate the monument. The folded flag will be actual size in bronze with the Gold Star emblem exactly as used by the Gold Star families nationwide. We call it the lapel pin. If you were a Gold Star family, got a lapel pin, that's what it would be. And that's about what I have to say. If you have any questions on what you have here.
Okay, questions, anyone? Comments?
I would really like to hear from our director of the Parks Department. This is her bailiwick. And I would also like to hear from the Parks and Recreation Conservation Board. Can we pass that design through that committee? That's their bailiwick.
So we've never actually, you know what, I think what we're doing here is holding one group to a standard that we don't hold others to. And it's very concerning to me. The American Legion, Post 53 is here, presenting a Gold Star monument in tribute to families who our fallen soldiers have left behind. We don't pass things before the Conservation Board. We don't pass. Nancy's here. I hope Nancy has a copy of this. It's certainly something that Parks and Rec should, at least the director will take a look at. But the Village Council, by consensus, needs to make a determination whether or not the Gold Star monument that is being presented here is something that you're interested in accepting. And we don't do this. We just, we don't ask, we don't do this. This is your job.
This is a public and private joint venture, really, and I really appreciate all the work that Post 53 has put into it. I want it to be the best that it can be. Let's have public input here.
We've had lots of public input.
I think we need to hear from the public, the Parks and Rec Conservation Board. I am not prepared to vote on this tonight until I hear from them, from our Director of Parks. We owe that to the people who are coming after us, to residents who are going to be using this park in the future. Just like when the Conservancy made changes to Memorial Park at Van Ness Square, they engaged a landscape architect. I really want this to be a beautiful monument to the Gold Star families, and I think it can't hurt to engage more of the public and get them on board for this. And I don't do it as a delaying tactic. I do it to improve this. And I heard what one of our speakers said, that granite is a contemporary medium that is too modern. We are not experts up here on aesthetics or on the use of parks or the design of parks. This is important to our whole community, as well as to Post 53. I would like to take the time to do this right.
Well, our first proposal was shot down because it was not timeless, because it could be date stamped. This is pretty timeless, it seems to me. It's a block of black granite.
That wasn't the council's objection. It was somebody else's objection.
Well, I mean, that's I'm just telling you, if you recall, the first presentation we made, it was shot down not only by the council, but also by major funders, to be perfectly honest, as not being timeless. That, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren could walk up to it and say, boy, didn't they dress funny in those days? It's got to be timeless. And this is a block of granite, which is as timeless as the pyramids, I suppose.
I can understand how frustrated you must be going through this again and again.
I doubt it.
But this is too important not to take the time to do it right.
Let me just jump in here. I think that there is a soul in this room who doesn't want to see a monument to Gold Star families. Everyone here, I think, there are rare instances when I can speak on behalf of a unanimous council, but I believe with all my heart, everyone wants to do this. Everyone. Our meeting started out tonight a little more contentious than it normally does. That is over. Now we're talking about this. And we are all on the same team, on the same page, and we want to just discuss this. Many of us are just seeing this for the first time an hour ago. And so we are just trying to drink this all in, and we're trying to understand this. I have never, ever done a monument, ever. I know that our Director of Parks has been involved in several, and so that's who I just want to hear from tonight to start this process, because it's a process, and we're going to figure this out. But let's not let this be contentious, not this. Because if this becomes contentious, what are we doing here? This is Gold Star Families. So, Chris, Bob, I've spoken to you several times in the last couple of weeks, given you my thoughts, council's thoughts. We want to get this done. We all want to get this done. So I would like to see our Director of Parks come in, give us some comments. This is going to be here 1,000 years after we're all gone. And we're all on the same page. We really are. So, the nuance of, is it black? Is it yellow? Is it white? Is it too tall? Is it too short? We're going to figure this out. So let's nobody take offense at, well, I have a different idea. That's what this is.
Okay. I think Councilwoman Reynolds is going to weigh in.
I just want to say I had the biggest smile on my face when I opened up this picture this morning. I love it. I think it's great. It's the perfect place. I love the contrast, the black contrast, that it doesn't blend in with the existing monument. You have your own monument for Gold Star Families.
Exactly
you have
the point.
Folded flag that you wanted to have. You have the emblem. It's perfect. Yeah. I really, and I want to just say that other people that have come here, especially, I can think of Boy Scouts for their Eagle Scout projects. There's and I'm sorry for forgetting his first name, but it was McGuire, that the last Boy Scout came and
oh yes, I know about
and created a monument. What was McGuire's first name? Is it John? Thomas McGuire.
Thomas Buchanan.
Right.
McGuire.
A Boy Scout came up.
Junior.
He spoke for a few minutes, said he wanted to honor Thomas McGuire and his Eagle Scout project. It was like an agreement, and he put it where he wanted to in Van Nest. This, I think, is almost insulting to Legion 53 to have to go through everything you've gone through to get this to this point. I think it's great. I want to say go ahead, do it.
Can I give you a kiss? No.
So I'm going to share my own observation. The original presentation was shot down by the primary funding source. It was also became a debate within your organization, your group, as to what things, who represented what. The second time, just a few weeks ago, when the American Legion visited us with a presentation, this council stated, it's too big, it's not the right place, it'll interfere with Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and throwing a football, and to move it, and couldn't it be moved to a place less obvious, less conspicuous, which I personally, my husband's father, as most of the Legionnaires know, is a Purple Heart recipient. I was personally offended by the comments that happened here. So now the American Legion works. I think you met at the park several times. Took to heart the comments from this village council and came back with a beautiful monument. I'm not sure when we're discussing a Gold Star monument, if we contemplate the real meaning of it, what it means to die for your nation, to leave family members behind. I don't know. I must be missing something here, because I am embarrassed and I'm heartbroken that this is the way we treat. Look, the landscape, it is an 18-inch dimension between the pavers and the first riser of the monument. There's no landscape design because it's simply going over the existing, what appears to be vinca vine. I am not the green person. I always admit I'm not the green person. I don't know what the green stuff is. It simply is placed there. There's no landscaping around it. There's no requirement for landscaping. If there wasn't any reason to landscape that green, what is that stuff? Whatever that greenery is, if it's not landscaped now,
I think it might be boxwoods.
I'm sorry?
I think it might be boxwoods. I'm not sure.
They're kind of low. Anyway, I'm going to call them vinca vines because that's what it reminds me of. If the vinca vines are there, they're there. They've been there for years. There's been no landscaping. There's been no plants. There's been no flowers. There's been nothing there but that vinca vine. And all they're doing is removing the vinca vine and removing a post and inserting this piece in place, which I happen to think is a very nice contrast, and cleaning up the vinca vine around it. You know what's interesting? Everybody's talking about landscape architect. I wish somebody would go and clean the monument. The monument is filthy. People graffiti all over it. How come everybody's talking about this landscape architect? Has anyone been there to see? By the way, can we get the monument cleaned? It's really just terrible. So I think that this American Legion Post 53 listened to everything that the council said and came back with a design that doesn't interfere with any landscaping, doesn't require a landscape architect, is a seamless integration into the existing war memorial. And I'm very happy to proceed, but I guess we have two council members who aren't. By the way, we don't vote tonight. There is no voting tonight. There's no vote tonight on this. We're in a, but it's a consensus issue. So I don't know what to tell you other than I'm sorry that this is what we're
Well, I hope we won't get to the point where the council will take other officials of the village and put together a new committee to study the Gold Star monument, which to me transfers ownership from the American Legion Post to the village. It's our project. We're asking your...
and we love that you're doing it.
Say again?
We love that you're doing it. We absolutely love that you're doing it.
So is there something, Paul, that you have any, is there something that you would request on that? That's something different?
Well, the first thing I'd like to request is, as I said, because this is my very first monument, and I've been in possession of this for an hour and a half, I would really like to hear from our Parks Director, who...
Can I make a recommendation? Just since you need it even with a council of 4 members, you still need 3 affirmative votes or 3 negative votes to either pass it or deny it. Right now it appears we have 2. Can we, within the next 2 weeks, get the review? Because it comes up on our public meeting. Can we get that review?
We don't vote on this. We don't vote. We've never voted on any such thing. We accept things as a gift after the fact by resolution. We do not vote to authorize this. We never have.
But you still have to accept it as a gift.
Correct.
So that needs 3 affirmative votes to accept as a gift. So can we get those reviews within the 2 weeks between now and when we would take the formal action to accept it as a gift? This is a suggestion to get by this impasse.
So, but the accepting of a gift happens after the fact typically. I believe that the Land Conservancy has completed its project and we're accepting a gift. It's on a resolution to accept a gift after completion of the project. So this, I'm not sure.
Well, this is a proposal for a monument, and it's going to be gifted, and you don't place it there until after it's accepted. So it would make sense to me, and maybe the council feels differently about it, but it would make sense to me that you would have to accept the gift of this monument before it could be installed. So that's just the way I'm approaching it, and I'm just trying to see if there's a way to get by the impasse.
I got to go back to the Boy Scout thing. It took us 5-10 minutes to say, wonderful idea, go ahead, do it. What? It's shameful that we're putting the Legion through, making them jump through hoops. They've listened to us. They've come back with something that is not, it's the right size, it's the right location. I don't know if somebody wants to landscape around it after it's done, then fine, bring in a landscape architect. But We approved so many things similar to this in a 5 to 10 minute period with a presentation. It's very distressing that we are making the Legion do everything that, I mean, it's sad.
Yeah,
It's
I just
terrible.
think that the presentation, I think that the Legion listened to the council about placement, about size, about mass, about everything, and did something that is in a place where it's not interfering with anything, doesn't require any landscape, it doesn't require anything, because anybody who went there and actually looked at what's there would say, yeah, this is an improvement over the Vinca Vine. The Vinca Vine is covered in leaves and everything else, but there's no landscaping there. So they did exactly what they were asked to do, and now they're being asked to jump through another hoop. But I'm sorry, Maria, I think has something to say. Oh, sorry. So the only thing I can say, I'm sorry, go ahead, Maria. Yeah.
This is Maria Bombace, who is a Blue Star mother.
I just wanted to ask specifically to you, the two of you, right? Like, what is your specific concern, or more than one, so that we understand? Let's just not, as you said, let's not make this contentious, because there's no need. So you have clear concerns, and we should understand what your concerns are so that we can address them.
Absolutely. And I think, again, I've spoken to Bob and Diane on a number of occasions and been very forthright, and I am not thrilled about the characterization that because I want to have our Director of Parks comment on this, because she's done a number of monuments and I haven't done any. So I as I've stressed, what's that? Okay. I just am trying to get a little input from our professional who has overseen these monuments. I'm not trying to make anybody jump through hoops. And is there a problem with having Nancy testify? Or come?
Can Nancy come on up?
Sure, come on
Can you
up.
give her your copy?
Sure.
Oh,
Do you have one, Nancy?
can Nancy come on up?
Yeah, and she does have a copy of it.
Well, it's a more of an issue with the monument itself, the idea,
No,
what is it?
Listen, as I said, everyone in this room wants a Gold Star monument in Van Ness Park.
Listen, and I'm not questioning that, because
Yeah, please, because
when my son was deployed, we used to meet at your restaurant, and you let us stay there for hours and hours.
And you can do the same at mine or any other place. We want to do this. I'm
I get it.
trying
Just
to get a
let's
good
Nancy.
handle on what's going on here. I gave Bob I gave Bob all my feedback.
Okay.
And he knows, and it's all been done in the spirit of getting this thing accomplished. He came back with something that was similar to what I personally suggested.
Okay.
And now I just want to hear from Nancy, and then I'll give my comments.
Okay.
So that's all I want. That's all I want to do. I don't think.
So maybe we can come to a consensus and move forward, because
Okay.
you know.
All right, so why don't we hear from, sorry, Maria,
Yes,
let's just hear from Nancy.
I'm going to
Yeah.
sit down now.
Thank you.
All right, Nancy, you're up at bat. All right. Do you want to sit and turn on? Okay.
I would like to also say the function of a landscape architect is not to plant gardens. It is to look at the design of the open space, the entire park, the original design of the park, and what would be in harmony with it, and dovetail it with what you all are asking for.
Okay, all right, hang on, let's just hang on. Welcome, Nancy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Aren't you glad we invited you here tonight?
To be quite honest, I feel uncomfortable.
I understand.
To be honest.
And we appreciate your honesty, and we need you to be honest with us, to give us your thoughts, having done monuments in the past.
So, in working with fellow residents, Chris Stout and Commander and the team, which I have worked very closely with, whether it was the rededication of the flagpole at Veterans Field. We had a memorial service at Graydon, if you remember. I've worked very closely with the Conservancy and the American Legion in hearing the desires of the community to open that space so that we can have a welcoming, respectful pavilion for us to conduct our ceremonies and pay tribute to our veterans. I think what we're looking for this evening is a conversation where the community can sit down and share the needs of what we're looking for in regards to respect and honor, and then also taking that into consideration for the needs of the park users and the community. I think that there was a concern liability-wise with the proposal that I saw from last week. As we all know, all of our park properties are becoming more and more user-friendly. There are people in our parks every single day, not just the weekends, not just after school, not just after church. And I think that we need to, for the safety and liability of our park users, take all of the changes that we are considering and look at liability, look at park use, look at practicability, and then just be able to consider those factors together. So I'm not really sure if we need a landscape architect. I don't think so. I know that we have used the services of Chris Ramundi in all of our garden renovations in the past, whether that was for the North Broad Street that was just finished this week, whether it was for the restoration that we worked with the American Legion on in Memorial Park at Van Ness Square, the Children's Butterfly Sensory Garden behind the stable. All of those services did require an expert, yes. In the placement of this memorial, I don't believe so, but I do think that there needs to be safety and consideration in its placement. I, for one, take offense to children climbing on the monument. I, too, have had many family members that have served. My father-in-law had an oak leaf and served in the Battle of the Bulge. So when we start to talk about sentiment and value and honor and privilege and pride, I think that all those things need to be considered. Also, the fact that today that site is used as the backdrop to many, many, many events that take place within the park, and probably every Sunday. You know, whether it's the Earth Day Daffodil Festival, whether it's the car show, whether it's Halloween, whether we're celebrating the resource fair downtown for the holiday. I think that the variables of an installation like this need to be considered as part of a team. I think safety, I think anchorage, I think lighting, All of those things need to be considered before we accept a gift like this, or in working with the committee to accept a gift like this.
So just in summation, sorry, Nancy, thank you. And I can hear that in your heart, right?
Just for the record, the flagpole monument at the corner of Maple and Linwood was a Rotary project, which I ran. Complete renovation was paid for by the Rotary. The rehab, if you like, not the rehab, but the creation of the memorial at Graydon Park, where we took all the plaques from the World War I off the trees, the one we could find, and replace them. That was an American Legion project. I should also mention that this lovely lady was with us on our very first visit to Van Square on this project when we had a pocket full of outrageous RFPs that we were looking at, and we told her that we wanted to put it over here, and it was going to be 10 feet tall, and after she passed out, we had to, get her out of there. And I believe she was there, and she was there and made a comment about the placement, which made us immediately change the placement because we were wrong. So there's been a lot of due diligence with people here. But if you want to ask others among yourselves, this is our concept. Tell us what you think of it, how we can change it to appease you. But it is an American Legion project, and this is, as I tried to allude to, the consequence of a lot of due diligence.
So my suggestion and my question for Nancy is, can your group, is this okay? It's your call. Can the group meet with Nancy on site with the plan and the drawings and just discuss it and then determine whether or not there's any issue with liability, and then maybe we can put this back on to our next week's agenda, which I think this was important to be here tonight, just so we could at least have this conversation. But I think if Nancy has the time and you all can coordinate with her, then maybe a site visit at the park, an explanation, and just make a determination as to whether or not this works there. I agree. I don't think there's any need for a landscape architect. It's a pretty straightforward piece and fairly straightforward installation from all appearances. So if that would be okay. I'm losing my voice. I don't know why. Too much talking.
One of the comments.
Excuse me. I think that's a great idea. I think a site visit is terrific. After your last presentation, Pam and I went for a site visit, and that really helped us see the proposal in its element. And so I was actually going to suggest the same thing, and I would like to be there to see and discuss. And as you guys know, I've been very honest and open and direct with you about my thoughts. But let's all go and figure this out. Like I said, it's going to get done, and the fact that we have questions about it doesn't make us, one at a time, doesn't make us unpatriotic, doesn't make us not want to do this, doesn't make us have the greatest admiration and respect for Gold Star families. It just means, the last time we went for a site visit, according to the diagram, what we discovered was it was proposed in the location of the Christmas tree. So I think that this is a productive endeavor, and I am going there in the spirit of getting this done as quickly as possible.
Okay. So, okay, Jack, why don't you Jack, if you want to just talk, why don't you come to the microphone?
My name is Jack Malcasiano. I'm the vice commander of the post. And all I want to say is that this is a Legion project, not a village project. So why do we need to be jumping through hoops to try to get this presented to you and offered to you as a gift after it is completed? I don't see why we have to continue going around in circles. We considered your comments with respect to placement. Yes, when we understood that, yes, maybe putting it by the tree would be, difficult place for it to be, especially during the holiday season and all that. We compromised, we talked about it, we came up with a solution. We decided, also based upon some comments you made, that maybe it best belongs in front of the memorial. So here we are today. What is this, the fourth time? Yep. We're here the fourth time trying to get this monument just to get you to agree that we can put it there. That's all.
And Jack, I'm sorry that you think that because I have questions and I want to have a site visit with you to discuss it, that you think that I'm asking you to jump through hoops. I feel badly that you feel that way.
I do, because why do we even have to have the comments from this lady? Why do we have to have the possibility of a landscape design?
I never suggested a landscape designer. Okay. And again, I just want to go. And when I said an hour ago, I was incorrect. I saw this at 6 o'clock tonight. It'll be there for 1,000 years. Another week isn't going to make a difference, is it?
Well, so to wrap this up, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut anyone off, but Nancy is the director of parks, okay. So she has valuable input. All she wants to do is do the same site visit. I think it's prudent to do that. Why don't you make the arrangements? However, you have to communicate. Let's do that. And if Nancy is okay and comfortable moving forward, if she can maybe email the village manager and any feedback that you have, and maybe we can just resolve this next week without even everyone having to come. We're going to automatically put it on our next agenda, okay, Heather? We will put it on our next agenda again as a presentation at the beginning of the meeting. But once you work with Nancy, we'll figure out the best way forward. Okay? Does that just...
All right.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. Sorry.
She alluded to liability, and if you don't mind my repeating myself, I told you this at an earlier session, but it's one of my favorite stories, is that one of your predecessors who sat in your chairs, a fellow Rotarian, complained to me once that the kids were playing on the steps to the monument, and she felt that was inappropriate. And I told her I didn't think it was, because there are 114 names on that plaque of people who died so that kids could play on steps. Some of them might have been kids of Gold Star families.
Thank you.
Very much for your...
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
So our next item is a discussion of our 2023 parking permits. Bob Rooney is here, our Director of our Parking Utility and CFO. We did discuss this, I think, at the beginning of October, and basically what we had recommended was a 4% increase for resident premium and non-premium, and a 9% increase for non-resident premium and non-premium. There was discussion about it possibly going back to the 2017 price of $1,000. So you also asked that I give you information about Glen Rock and Ho-Ho-Kus, which are totally different types of parking areas for their residents who are commuters. However, in Glen Rock, the resident parking permits are $200 per year. They sold 475 resident parking permits in 2022, and it's about half full. Their 2023 pricing has not yet been discussed. Non-residents in Glen Rock can only park at the mainline station by the day at $12 a day, and it's paid through Park Mobile, and they cannot purchase parking permits. In Ho-Ho-Kus, it's $400 a year, goes down to $200 a year on July 1st for the half year. If the resident does not purchase a parking permit, they have Park Mobile and kiosks, and the cost is $7 a day or $1 an hour. Pre-COVID, they sold 140 parking permits, and that was for 197 commuter parking spaces. The lot was full almost 100% of the time. I checked in again with Hohokus, and they said they're pretty close to full again. And they also did say that the 2023 prices will not be going up. The non-residents park in the commuter lot if there are spaces available, and the price again is $7 a day or $1 an hour, and they pay at a kiosk or through Park Mobile. I do have Bob Rooney here to discuss the short-term parking permits and the suggestion to bring the price down to $1,000 as it was in 2017.
So at the last work session, there were a couple of questions raised regarding being able to issue permits for certain days of the week. I inquired from Calais and both Park Mobile and Calais. They indicated that Park Mobile can do it for contiguous days. So they can do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But if they go odd days, it creates an enforcement issue. Calais said they've tried this at a large college in Illinois. It worked for a short period of time, but then again, enforcement was a nightmare, so they stopped using that approach. The cost of the permits is a concern to me. We have costs higher now than we did when before the garage. We have debt service that we have to pay for. I have kiosks that I have to pay for. To try and go back and reduce that revenue stream, I think would be a challenge. In addition, I still have not achieved the level of revenue I had pre-COVID. So pre-COVID, we had X number in operating expense. I built a garage. I issued debt. I bought kiosks. So I have to maintain that level of revenue to support that. So that's my biggest concern, is making certain I keep what I have. The usage, I don't believe if we lower the rate, we're going to bring people in. Perfect example, the Turnpike and Parkway just increased their rates 1.9% today, effective today. That's not going to diminish people from using the Parkway or the Turnpike. They're still going to journey up and down. They're going to absorb the cost a little easier or challenge it, but they're still going to use it. And I believe the same thing is with the parking in the garage. I think people have a need when they go to the city. They still have to find parking. I don't believe, and especially with the price of gas, they're not going to want to journey to other municipalities to try and cut that cost. They're still going to have a cost to travel. So I just suggest that we at least maintain the cost. I do support an increase of the 4%. Again, my costs keep going up, so I got to be able to balance that someplace.
Bob, I don't have any problem with the increase. I believe that the issue is flexibility, that there were so many people who were going in 5 days a week who are now going in something less than 5 days a week. And those people, we will not, it's my belief that we won't get them to buy the annual pass. And so I'm looking for an alternative that would allow us to suit the needs of the people who would want to buy these things. And again, I'm just looking at what's in the memo that, for example, and tell me if this works, the CBD employee parking sticker, that person buys a sticker and then pays by Park Mobile any day that they come in. I believe there may be a way, I hope that there is a way that we could do something like that for people.
They can do that.
I'm sorry?
They can do that. They can pay at the kiosk. They can pay by Park Mobile, as long as they have the Ridgewood sticker. That's all they have to do.
But they're not buying a permit.
Right, but they're not buying, because as long as that's made available to them, because it refers to an employee parking sticker. So
No, but I also mentioned at the last meeting
I
that,
missed it. I apologize.
Okay, at any time they can go, as long as they have the Ridgewood parking sticker, they can park in the train station lot or another lot, and they can pay by Park Mobile or by kiosk. In addition, if they're only going in 1 day a week, let's say, they could do the 1 day permit, which is $10.
Right, and while I think it's fine to offer the 5-day permit, I think that we need to.
It's a 1 day permit.
Excuse me, the annual permit at
Right.
$13.75.
Right.
We're going to get a fraction of what we used to get. We'll still get some people, but I think we need to market these other alternatives to people who, again, I know that there are so many people who are only going in 1, 2, 3 days a week.
I can certainly put it in an e-notice. It's in every parking lot. It indicates you can park by Park Mobile or by kiosk. So, but we can certainly put it in an e-notice. We can put it on the website so that people are clear. And, you know, if you don't wish to entertain the increase, we would ask that you leave it at the $13.25 and the $1,000, I believe is what it was, for the non-premium. This way, at least it would be status quo so that we could, you know, continue to meet our expenses.
So, Paul, to your concern, here's a suggestion. If we implement the structure now the way it stands as proposed, and give me some time to work with Park Mobile and Calais to see if we can come up with something for next year that we can implement, because in speaking to them, it doesn't sound, their history shows it's not working. So we would have to recreate some method that would allow enforcement to be accurate and not spend a lot of time in court dismissing tickets, and at the same time address your issue about allowing them 2 or 3 days a week to travel. So if we give me some time to try and work something up, but I would suggest that we move forward with the structure now, because you got to do an ordinance so we can sell these by the end of the year.
I am absolutely on board with that, Bob.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think you see the world is changing. So Park Mobile's going to figure something out to change with it. It's not going to remain static. So I'm completely on board.
Okay.
I also think these are very modest increases and reasonable in light of inflation. As you say, we do have costs. I have been wanting to capture that segment of the market that's only going in 3 days a week. I think Google has its employees coming in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And if enforcement is doable, I'd like to be able to offer those people something other than a full permit like what we have now, but I don't want to undercut ourselves either. Do you think if we went to a 3-day-a-week offer, would that undercut our other types of permits?
I have to do some math, but I think between, say, the next 3 months, we should see some guidance as to usage. So if we have our PEOs monitor activity for Mondays and Fridays, let's say, to see what the usage is, we can determine whether that's something that we can offer. But right now, you know, my costs are still what they were back in 20, debt service predicated on a revenue stream that I had then. So I don't feel comfortable in allowing that cut, so to speak, until I'm sure that we have enough money coming in to cover all the costs.
Then I'm in favor of what's here in your proposal.
I'm sorry, Pam, what was that last thing you said?
I'm in favor of what he's proposing.
Okay. I think we should do no increase. Sorry, but I'd like to stay with the status quo, 2022. Prices are going up everywhere. I mean, people are having a hard time. Things are, you know, you go to the grocery store, your bill is twice as much as it used to be. I know it's only a small increase, but I think we should do no increase. In 2021, we had 106 people buy permits. In 2022, we had 180. Hopefully in 2023, we'll have more. And I just think it's a good PR. You know, it's oh, Ridgewood didn't raise prices again. You know, even though everything else is going up, Ridgewood didn't raise their permit prices. I really don't think we should raise them. I do agree if we could figure out a way to do a 2-day or 3-day, if it doesn't undercut things, to do that. But I think the prices are high enough as it is, especially compared to other towns. I know, you know, we're different, but it is a significant increase for somebody to buy a permit in Ridgewood versus, I'm pretty close to Hohokus. I'll go to the Hohokus train station. So I would like to keep them the same as last year. And hopefully we're going to get more, you know, maybe 50, 60 more people. And then the bottom line will be much bigger.
So I just have a couple of questions. In 2020, obviously, we had a very significant shift in what was going on, and in 2021, we were still in the middle of COVID. But it appears to be maybe a 30% increase in passes sold from 2021 to back to 2022. Overall, it's about a 30% increase going back to. We're still short, significantly less, but it looks like about a 30% increase. So my question, because when I do the very quick and dirty math here on these increases, it's really not a significant amount of money, additional funds that would be collected by the utility. We're talking less. It appears, if I'm calculating this right, less than $10,000. Correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm actually believe it might be closer to $6,000, and that was just my quick math. So my question then goes to 2022. On the 87, 35, 23, and 6, how many of those were purchased on a prorated at a different point during the year? Do we know, do we have an idea, were 50% prorated or all 100% purchased at the gate? You know, you understand what I'm asking? Good.
I do.
Because I'm hoping I'm explaining it.
I don't have that number in front of me. I would say, I'm just going to guess, but most of the purchases for the full-time are in December, January.
Okay.
So then it's prorated after that, by month. But I don't have that number in front of me.
So if in 2022, we'll take the premium, we had 87. Either there had to be a percentage of those that purchased it after January at some point later on in the year, so those were prorated.
Yes.
Which would indicate, if we're looking at what's trending, is that the numbers are coming back up. But when I look at those amounts, even if the numbers were at 100%, the actual the utility would still only be seeing, even at 100%, it would be probably less than 15,000. Correct?
I can't say that. I have to do the math.
I'm
looking at, if I look at premium resident, 2019 I had 215,000.
Right.
2020 I had 212,000. 21 I went down to 50,000.
Right.
Okay? Again, don't look, this is my sheet. This isn't what you have in front of you. Okay? So, and 2022, now I'm at 96 as of September 30th.
Correct.
Okay? So, starting to climb up.
It's trending back up, but even at those numbers. So I'm going to suggest, I'm not entirely thrilled with the increase. While it seems negligible to the user, the end user, it's also a negligible amount of money for the utility. Mm-hmm. So the question then is, why pass that burden onto the shoulders of the end user? Go ahead.
Because in 2020 I built a garage and I issued debt for 2020 at an interest rate that's very favorable, say 2.5%, 3%. Every year I have a debt service payment that doesn't change structurally. Okay? I have costs to maintain the garage that haven't changed. Dollar-wise, they're going up.
Right.
They're not going down. Okay? And now I'm going to start, after 3 years of the garage, now I have to start putting money into actually maintenance every year. Even though I'm putting money aside from that, I have to
Understood.
budget for that. That cost is going up. Okay? So nothing's going down, and if you're suggesting that the revenues stay flat, that's, I can probably get there, but I still suggest that there be some type of adjustment because my costs are not going down. They're staying flat or going up in most cases.
And let me just jump in here 1 second. Forgive me. I'm sorry, Susan. One of the issues over the long term is that while the increase is not significant, over time, at some point, you have to raise prices.
Correct.
To keep up. And what happens is you can have small, regular increases that, in this case, is $50. Or you can wait and have a significant increase that people take notice of and that is more offensive to them. We have some experience in this, and no one wants to raise prices, ever. But if you don't do it on a regular basis, then when you have to do it, the increase is significant enough for the end user to take note and perhaps say, I'm going someplace else. When it's small like this, it's usually not as big an issue.
We've kept the prices constant for 4 years, 2018 to 2021. Stayed at $1,300 for 4 years. We raised last year $25. I think to raise $50 this year is a slap in the face. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. I think we should keep it as last year.
So
at least
to your
have
point,
2 years.
I understand exactly what you're saying. We kept it flat because we had a good revenue stream and we had costs that were pretty level. As a result of COVID, my revenue stream went down. If you remember, I can't anticipate more than what I collect in my budget. So if my revenue stream goes down, if my cash collections go down as a result of COVID, which they did, and a reduced usage, I have to recover that someplace. So this $50 is really paying for my shortfalls in the last couple of years. I had to issue debt during COVID to cover my revenue shortfalls in the parking utility. That had to be paid back. So there was a price for the borrowing on that as well. So all I'm saying, and I value Paul's comment here, is that you don't want to get caught in a big jump, because gradual people can tolerate more than a big jump. That's my opinion.
I think this year raising it $50 it's a tough year. It's a very, very tough year for people. And I think we would lose more people, and then your revenue stream might go down. I don't know. I think it might be the tipping point where people say, you know what? I'm going to find another way.
All right. I think we should introduce it with the increase. That's what I think we should do. I understand when we look back on the garage, we had, in 2015, we had a whole bunch of people who voted to build it. And in 2016, we had the same number of people, I think, who said don't. And I believe by consensus, everybody wanted the garage, but this is part of what we understood going in. And I think the key for me is that we do have to have that fund for maintenance. We do need to look to the future and recognize that that's another obligation. And we do have debt service that we have to cover. So I'm going to say that we should probably vote to introduce it. Mhm. Okay. All right. Anyone else?
I just need to just ask, so we're going to go up the 4% for the resident and non-resident premium and non-premium. Are we going to charge the same amount for non-residents, or are we going to charge them more?
So it looks like whatever is on the schedule here, right?
Correct.
There's an increase there, correct?
There is.
Mm-hmm.
It's 9% for non-residents.
Correct.
I mean, I'm happy that we got last year 23 non-residents,
Mm-hmm.
and for premium, and 6 for non-premium. I don't want to lose those people either. Raising them 9%, you may lose them.
The only question I would raise is I would think the residents should have a benefit. This is your village, this is your town. You should have first priority to what
The
this
lots are
cost
empty.
is.
I don't care who parks there. Just give me, they give you money, take it.
Yes, but a lot of businesses are ordering staff back to the office. So just this is very, very real that people are being ordered back to work. A lot of these businesses, these companies, they do have a tremendous amount of empty square footage, and they're telling people to go back.
It would be a wonderful problem if our lots and our garage is filled, but I don't think it's happening in 2023.
Well, okay, all right.
So do I have consensus with the proposal from 3 of you for the resident and non-resident?
Yes.
Yes, you do from me. I feel like it's my duty to the taxpayers to approve this.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Bob.
And just as a reminder, we're introducing it, so it's not
Yeah.
a vote affirmative
Right.
one way or the
Right,
other.
right.
Okay.
So we'll go on and do the municipal energy aggregation program proposal from Taurus Group. I know we have Nathan, I'm sorry, Nathan, I forget your last name. Burrows from the Taurus Group here. So if you would just come up, you can sit or you can stand, whichever you prefer. I know that the council had some questions. Just make sure the green light is on the microphone.
Sure.
Great.
So, as you said, Nathan Burrows, Taurus Advisory Group, thank you for having me. I apologize I couldn't make it the first time. I had COVID. I'm relatively healthy today, and I've been sitting a while, so I've chosen to stand.
I'm sorry, what was your first name?
Nathan.
Nathan.
You can call me Nate if you like.
Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
Thank you for your patience.
My pleasure.
So you're on the hot seat now.
I'm ready.
All right. So questions for Nathan. I
Yes.
think actually my recollection is you had a very specific question.
Very specific question. So, Nathan, your representative came to speak with us last time. So when we asked we lock in for those who were not familiar with this, we would lock in at a specific price, and this way we are protected from increases in the market, and we would lock in at a price that we think is advantageous for our residents. And we asked the question of your representative, what happens if the price goes down? Are we locked in at the higher price? And she said something to the effect of, no, we would self-terminate the contract, or self-terminate the obligation to pay this higher price, allow the residents to return to PSE&G as their provider, and that was different. It was a significant difference from what we heard from some of the other providers.
Sure.
So, and you'll forgive me, this was really something I wanted to just look you in the eye and say, did she say what I think she said? So tell me.
Sure. Let me elaborate. So, I mean, for the benefit of the people in the room and maybe for yourselves, the distinction here is that, our role as the consultant in putting the program together is really formulating the guidance. And so when you're talking to some of the other providers, they might have said, hey, a supplier, we're not the supplier. We're simply the consultant. We put it out to bid. We formulate the program along with you guys, checks and balances along the way. What the other consultants might have said is, hey, that will never fly. No supplier will bid on a contract opportunity like that. So what has typically happened in the past is that there could be some wiggle room for the supplier to move their price down, which they may not be inspired to do. But we can certainly create within the contract documents, which we do create on your behalf, and will be approved by you guys at the end before we put it out to bid. We can create these levels of protection. So the contract wouldn't be, no one would ever bid on a contract being able to be just totally terminated, right? You wouldn't get any bidders. So what Tara really meant to say is, so let's say you sign a 2-year contract. Over the term, the residents can be returned by us as the administrators, can be returned to the utility if it looks like for an extended period of time, the utility will be lower. But the contract wouldn't be terminated. They would be returned to the utility and then brought back on when the savings are available again. Because let's say we're 6 months into a 2-year contract. They don't want to give up the potential that, hey, 2 months later or whatever, in the following quarter, the rates change and we can bring everybody back on the contract. They don't want to lose another, 14 months, at month 6, when they could be returned for 3 or 4 months and then put back onto the contract. So she misspoke by saying contract terminated. She meant accounts returned to the utility and then put back on the contract.
Right. Now, this sounds very agreeable. My next question would be, do you think you would be able to get bidders for a contract with that clause in it?
That's a great question. So what's happened in this space over several years, it used to be the Wild Wild West. It's much better now. The players in this space, the suppliers that bid on this, they're used to the way this goes. There are 60 or 70 suppliers in PSE&G that are approved by the BPU to supply third-party electricity. How many will bid on this? How many do this? 4 or 5. And the more stipulations we put in, the fewer will bid. So what we will try to do is come up with, and what we have done in practice over the years, is come up with a vehicle that's as favorable as possible to the suppliers while providing as much protection as possible to the residents. And the ability to opt out at any time individually is terrific. Right. But that's sometimes not enough. So the ability for us to return the residents to the utility if, let's say, okay, for this quarter, everyone's going to lose by a certain percentage. It used to be month over month over month, the rates would change. So it was very difficult to anticipate, hey, when should we be returning these folks back to the utility? Now the rates are published, the changes are published quarterly. So it's much easier to anticipate when to remove them and when not to remove them.
Has this clause been put in place before with other contracts?
In New Jersey?
There are certainly stipulations that exist in the public space, and we probably have copies of documents that exist.
And do you think that this would affect the bid prices that we receive? Would it elevate them?
Well, in all honesty, in PSE&G, in normal times, it is very difficult to get a program off the ground because it's just so challenging for the suppliers to find. It's so challenging to get a price that beats the utility for a program like this because of the fact that residents can just opt out at any time. Yes, that raises the price, that alone, and it's just PSEG is a tighter market than, let's say, JCP&L. It's just much easier for these programs to go off because there's more room for the suppliers to operate and be competitive. So, I mean, we're talking about, tenths of a penny. So this program, if it's super successful and the market cooperates, your average resident will save, if they're not worried about a green component, really giving them the option to choose the green component depending on how you've structured your ordinance, right? Those that have the option to choose the green ordinance probably care less about the price because green makes it more expensive. If you have the regular standard program, if you save $120 a year, that's a win, right? So we're not talking about huge margins here, so maybe the price might be a 10th or a 15th higher for these kinds of stipulations, if they're going to bid at all. It's really more likely either, hey, that means we're going to not bid, or we can accept that clause. That's really how these bidders are going to view it.
So at the end of the day, you're our advisor.
Yes.
On these things.
I hope to be.
You would hope to be our advisor. And if you were our advisor, would you advise us to include a stipulation like this in our contract in light of what would you think would save our residents more money? Having this stipulation in the contract and perhaps getting higher bids, or not having the stipulation in the contract and getting slightly lower bids?
Well, it really depends on what your preferences are. I mean, you might look at it and say, look, the program is already built with a tremendous amount of protection, and to be honest, when this program takes effect, probably 100, 200 residents are going to say, what is this? No matter how well it's publicized, no matter how many town hall meetings there are, no matter how I could walk up and down the street for 2 weeks with a sign on my front and back, people are going to say, I was never told about this, I don't like this. And what we say is, well, you can opt out at any time. So, it's projected to save you X amount of money. I get it. Some people don't want to do it because they were made to do it and they felt like they weren't given a choice, even though they were. But, so really what matters at the end of the day is, how do you think your residents will react? How many people have come to you saying, hey, look, we really want to go green and that's what we care about, whereas the other ones might say, we really want to save? Or have you guys sort of generated this germinate sort of locally, amongst the council or administration? Really, it really depends on what kind of feedback you think you're going to get. And at the end of the day, you're going to get some people saying, hey, look, I don't want to do this. I don't like this. We fielded hundreds, thousands of calls like that, and then at the end of the call, probably 50% of them, they say, oh, that's what you were talking about? I do like this. And the other 50% are still angry. But after the first year or two of a program, it goes away. Everybody knows what it's all about. I don't know if I answered your question, though.
You did, actually. You did.
Okay.
You did. And I am good going forward. I don't know if anyone else has other questions.
And just to add one more piece, we can make it very stringent. I mean, look, if you bring us on board, it is going to take a little bit to get this off the ground, especially considering where the market is. I mean, we can put it out to bid one time with all the, ironclad protections in, and someone could say, hey, look, we're not bidding. And then we say, okay, we got 0 bidders or 1 bidder. We don't have to accept the bids. We can say, okay, you're out, and we'll just kind of strip away a little bit. And we can also independently go around to the folks that do it and say, would you guys bid, what do you think about in this market? Would you guys bid on X, Y, or Z? Just generically talk to the market, talk to people and say, are you doing this nowadays? I know 4 years ago you guys were doing it. I know when we did the co-op, up the road, you guys included this language. Why haven't we seen it recently? Why aren't you doing it now? Or why are you doing it now? To what effect? So, you bring us on board, we're going to chase those avenues down. Because every market the market has really reset itself. So, unfortunately, we think that the utility is going to go up, and that will give us an opportunity to get savings. That's the only benefit of what's happening, to the economy right now. I'm going to shut up now because there's been a lot of talking tonight.
Nathan, thank you so much.
I wish we had this in place a year ago, but I'm unfamiliar with this clause you're speaking about, going on off contract, back on contract, what's it called?
Well, I mean, so there really isn't a name for it. I mean, there are names of clauses that, you know, have been inserted into contracts off and on over the years. I mean, there's a clause called price match guarantee. That's not this, but that is something that we could incorporate, right? Like, hey, listen, if the utility goes down, you know, yes, you're giving us a price of, you know, of X, but if the utility goes down, you have to match it, you know, at least match it, or else they can go back to the utility. So you could think of it as a price match guarantee. Again, like you mentioned, Councilman, it will be the more onus we put on the supplier, the more restriction, the more ability we give folks, or to lose the whole contract, you know, the less likely they are to bid. But we can feel it out. I mean, that's what we're here to do, to work and put something in place that you guys want.
In your experience, when the fixed price from the third-party supplier has ended up being higher than the basic generation service supplied by PSE&G, has that been a large spread? Has it been pennies? Has it been dollars?
It's a great question. So I'm going to try to keep it simple. I'm going to say the word tariff. So there is a component of the utility tariffs that's called reconciliation, and that's really why month over month you might see your bill change, or now it's quarterly. And it really just depends. I mean, typically, the average reconciliation prior to 2020 was probably, I mean, like COVID threw everything on its head. So prior to COVID, the average reconciliation was probably a, you know, positive 0.2 of a penny over a 10-year average. You know, in some years it was a penny. In some years it was a penny more expensive. In some years it was half a penny less expensive, meaning the price went up or down by that amount. But the beauty of having a clause, if we can, you know, if we can make it fly, you know, in the bid, the beauty of having a clause that allows the suppliers to, hey, at least come down. Hey, if it's a, you know, if you can come down as far as the utility for a certain, you know, for that period of time, when the utility drops, you have the ability to keep the contract. That flexibility is good to build into. So it doesn't really matter how big it is if they're willing to come down. And if they're not, we're allowed to return the customers to the utility.
So does the BPU have to approve the contract with the third-party supplier?
We will send all the documents to every arm of oversight that you've heard of and many that you haven't. Rate Council, BPU, yes, all those. And look, you know, yes, it has to be approved.
Has the BPU in New Jersey approved a contract with that with a renewable energy content with that clause in it in New Jersey?
Yes, but every contract is a little bit different, right? So if you're looking for your renewable energy content, I mean, what the law says, that's where you don't have to provide savings. You, as a council, could say, we want the renewable content and the savings.
Yes, that's
right? So
what we'd like.
That is, right, I mean, that's not necessarily, like, right this minute. Like, if we put that out to bid, we're not getting that today. We might get that in June, but that's why, you know, bring us on tomorrow and we'll get to work.
Yep, that's what we understood. Okay,
no,
thank
I'm
you.
sure Tara laid that out for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions? All right, Nathan.
You guys aren't going to come to a consensus. I heard all this about consensus and people saying, I'm kidding. Guys, thank you for the opportunity. I hope to hear from you.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night. Okay. With that, we're going to a special public meeting. So we'll take a motion to suspend work session and convene a special public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Vagianos.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the Village Council Special Public Meeting, October 26, 2022, and the time is 9:34 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled. Same is provided by law of a schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Perrin.
Yes.
Councilwoman
here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Councilman Vagianos.
Here.
And Mayor Newton.
Here. I move the first reading of Ordinance 3927.
Have a second?
Second.
Perrin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Vagianos.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes, so ordered. Will the clerk please read Ordinance 3927 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 145 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood Fees at Section 145-6, enumeration of fees relating to code chapters.
Okay. Somebody want to?
Have someone move?
Somebody want to move it?
Sure. I move that Ordinance 3927 be adopted on first reading and that November 9th, 2022 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
I second the motion.
I'm sorry. Perrin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Vagianos.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. Very good. With that, we'll take a motion to adjourn and move back to our work session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, we're back. We're going to Ridgewood Water?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So our first item under Ridgewood Water is the refund of water overpayment. A customer erroneously overpaid by $2,370, so they do wish to get that refunded. So that's up for on a resolution for November 9th.
Right. Anyone have any questions about the overpayment? Okay.
The next one is the annual Senior Citizen Housing Corporation that has an agreement that exempts them from paying property taxes. So in lieu of paying the taxes, they pay an annual service charge to the village for municipal services. This charge is 6.28% of the annual gross revenues. This year, the cost will be $78,823.63.
Okay. Any questions about the Ridgecrest pilot?
With regard to the asterisk that says, should the cost of sanitary sewage and solid waste collection and disposal increase, then service charge will increase proportionately. And we give them notice before that, right? We give them advance notice? That's all I wanted to know.
Okay. The next item is an overpayment of taxes. So Wells Fargo paid taxes. It shouldn't have been paid because it's actually a 100% disabled veteran, no longer pays taxes, so they are requesting a refund of that payment.
Anybody object to the refund? No.
Okay. The next item is the review of the proposal for the repair of the Kingsbridge Lane pedestrian bridge. As you recall, that went out during Ida, I believe, last year. And so we did go out for an RFP to repair it because we had a estimate for replacing it, and it got into a lot with, the handicap ramps and everything else. So this is a repair one. We did receive one proposal back. It was from Lahita Engineering of Hoboken, New Jersey, a quote of $32,125. And this is to obtain an engineering design firm to design a repair program for the existing Kingsbridge Lane Bridge. So this would be to award a contract to Lahita Engineering to do so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I know we all like the charm of the current bridge, and if I'm reading this correctly, what they will be designing will be all made of steel, not wood like what we have now.
It's not wood. It's not wood.
Oh, it's not?
It's steel.
Okay. All right. Well, that answers that question.
Okay.
So I actually think I'm going to say thank you for getting this out when requested as quickly as we did. I think this is a great option. It resolves the very significant issue of the the requirements that if we replace it versus repair, the compliance issues. So, and it's significantly, based on that cost analysis, significantly less than we would have been looking at for a brand-new replacement. And the brand-new replacement actually didn't even contemplate the compliance issues and what it would mean on both the Kingsbridge and East Saddle River Road reconfiguration. So I didn't even contemplate that. So we were talking about a heck of a lot more even than that. So I think this is a win-win, a really good option.
I agree. I think this is great. I mean, we were talking 500,000 plus. This is 168,000. I want to thank the mayor for pushing for an RFP because we were all just, all right, it can't be fixed, you know, and now it looks like it can be fixed, which is wonderful, and we'll save ourselves a few $100,000. So this is really good news.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't be on board with this? I had two questions, and they all relate to: is this really feasible? Like, do we know that these guys are legit guys who repair bridges, who have credibility, I read it. No, I listen. I read a lot of stuff, and that doesn't necessarily make it true. And so, but our engineering department believes that these guys can actually design a fix for our bridge.
Correct.
Right.
I'm in.
I mean, they gave a list of projects they did. We can always call and
and
confirm that they're happy.
Point, that we have checked them out, that they are who and what they say they are and can do this.
That is usually done. I'll make sure it was.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
And this is design and build, right?
No, this is
Just design.
Design.
Okay.
And then it has to go out to bid.
Right.
So they'll prepare the design and the bid documents, and then we'll go out to bid.
Okay.
Okay. The next one is awarding a Ford, truck with a snowplow, Ford F-350 truck. So the issue has been with our Ford trucks is that it's a diesel engine and it's equipped with a regeneration system that utilizes diesel emission fluid. That means that it's required by law in diesel engines. But what's required is that they go on a long stretch of road for an hour, 45 minutes, or that the diesel truck idles, which neither one is productive. So what we have had our supervisor of traffic and signal do is to find a different type of vehicle. So he's found a gasoline-fueled 2023 truck meeting the specifications. It's under state contract through Route 23 Auto Mall in Butler, New Jersey. There is money in the capital account to replace the truck that is no longer functioning. And then there'll be a separate resolution for the truck body. It's important that we pass this in our meeting in November 9th because the order window is from November 7th to November 10th. And that's it. And after that, they'll take no more orders for 2023, and it won't be till November 2024.
So I have a question. I want to take a step back. Based on the timing of this item and based on the schedule provided by the engineer for Kingsbridge, can we do, just as much as I hate to say this, and I can't believe it's going to come out of my mouth, a special public meeting next week for both of those? Because I meant to say that when I was talking about it, but the scheduling on the Lahida, is that the name? Lahida. That their scheduling is I think it's revolving around trout season, but
yes,
it is revolving around trout season. I thought that's what I read. So thank you. So if we can do that next week, then we can do this and that. Okay, good.
As long as everyone's in agreement, that's fine.
Yes.
Right. Yes, we probably do, and so that's something that I don't know, though, that they had that money in their capital account for this year, which the Signal Division did. I will check to see if there were others, but Yes, we have a few trucks like this.
And how much do you anticipate approximately body cost?
That I don't know. I'll find out, though.
Thank you. Can we sell this at auction?
We would. That's how we would declare it surplus and then sell it. Okay, the next one is the lighting in the HC zone, which is a highway commercial zone. I know this was discussed at the planning board, so the mayor could speak to this.
Sure. So the highway commercial zone is only the borough's pool property, as we refer to it, but it is the AT&T, Starbucks strip mall.
Mhm.
Everybody's familiar. So presently, what happened, and hopefully everyone had the opportunity to read John Barry's notes, but what happened is the lighting design standards mimic our B1, B2 downtown. And as a result, the lighting standards don't contemplate the fast-moving traffic along the highway. Instead, it contemplates more foot traffic and slower-moving vehicular traffic. So the ask is that we allow the highway commercial zone to have more interior lighting of type signage so that they're visually seen. It particularly is difficult. There is, I don't know how many frequent that particular strip mall. It's difficult because of the exit ramp to Paramus. It's kind of just a big loop around, and a lot of people simply miss that strip mall. So this would just be a tool in a toolbox for them. I also anticipate that the mall owner or strip mall owner will be redoing a monument sign to actually name that strip mall so that when people are looking for something, they can say, well, it's like Ridgewood Mall, or whatever we want to call it. So I know they're going to be doing that. They're trying to really make an effort to be a little bit more visible along the highway. So if everyone is okay with this, it is Section 19122 of the Village Code, and we would amend that as, as I guess we'll do an introduction because the Planning Board already weighed in on it, and it was affirmative, their decision.
I'm good with this. I just have a question. There are stores just north of there, I believe, on the southbound side that I'm wondering, are they also in Ridgewood? I think they are.
So the strip mall, so there's the Exxon station.
And then there's the Leva Eye Center, I believe.
The Leva Eye Center.
There's
But
a
that
couple of
is
things.
actually, it's not HC zone, it's OB. It may be, it's a different zone.
The HC is really the only, this strip mall is the only HC zone.
So I believe that it's.
Sorry, I'm not on the phone. The HC zone is only this strip mall, and so the criteria only fits for that purpose.
And I'm just curious if those other stores need the additional lighting that we're giving these guys.
So their lighting standards are not mimicking the B1, B2. So their lighting standards are
Got it.
completely different. That's why they have so much more
Got it.
signage
I'm good.
and availability. Got it. All right, so can we just prepare an ordinance on this so that we can amend?
Well, actually, the planner actually already prepared an ordinance. I think we
Oh,
can
right.
take a look at that.
I
It's
did.
in the documents that were
Okay.
attached.
Right, I'm sorry, I did have that.
That's all right.
So if everybody's okay, we can add this as an introduction, and then it'll be an amended ordinance. Good, thank you.
The last item is the placing a hold on demolition permits on historic homes.
So Matt advised me that according to UCC, is it?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
UCC.
guess when we go through, I don't know whether everybody knows where this issue came from, but I guess it came out of a discussion with the planning board.
It actually was an ongoing conversation with the Historic Preservation Commission to place a 30-day hold on the issuance of demolition permits for a Historic Preservation Commission review and comment And so, as it turns out, why don't you take your
Okay.
piece of it?
The Historic Preservation Commission is a commission that's established by the municipal land use law, and it can only deal with giving advisory opinions and several other criteria for historic properties, historic buildings, historic properties. When looking at the suggestion that we give time to the HPC to review any demolition permits for historic properties, looked up the Uniform Construction Code, which is followed by the Village of Ridgewood, and that only gives a 20-day turnaround period from application for the permit to either the issuance or the denial of the permit. We don't have the right to regulate it or extend it to 30 days. That 20-day period is set by the UCC. The question is through communication, the question is whether or not, since HPC doesn't meet every 20 days, how can we approach an issue such as this? In talking to Tony Merlino says that when it is a historic building, they have a different look at the type of thing that they're looking for, but the demolition permits for historic buildings are kind of few and far between. So is there, I guess the question for those that are interested in this and the council is whether or not being able to get everything done and getting a review by the HPC within 20 days. Now, there's a catch-all section in the statutory enablement of an HPC that says that that they can be due an advisory opinion on different types of things other than just setting up the historic building inventory and comments like that. It is questionable as whether or not we can give them the opportunity to even look at the demolition permits, because the demolition permits are strictly covered in the UCC, and the HPC is not identified or spoken of with regard to that. So getting over that hurdle is the timing of a 20-day window for the building department to review this, something that'll work with with the Historic Preservation Commission that doesn't meet every 20 days. In fact, I'm not sure that it meets every 30 days on a regular basis, but it certainly can maybe change its schedule around for that purpose, but it's got to be something that's given notice.
So my suggestion, because it's a 20-day window, is that the application, that there be a 24-hour period, or within 24 hours, that it at least be forwarded to the HPC secretary. That would at least resolve the issue of kind of being blindsided by the Historic Preservation Commission. So if the building department, once the application comes in, within 24 hours notifies Historic Preservation Commission, that would not pose a problem. And if the Historic Preservation Commission feels that it is relevant enough, serious enough of an issue, they could convene a meeting, notice a meeting, and convene to discuss it and to write an opinion if there need be. So it's something that I think is doable. Is that okay, Mr. Rogers?
Well, I think the conversation has to go back to the building department to find out in terms of what their criteria is, because again, that's controlled by UCC. So the criteria that gets reviewed with regard to any demolition permit, whether it's a newer building or a historically cited building, the criteria that they have can't be changed. And I don't know whether, we have to find out a little bit more about that, I think, before we take a look, before we can try and make this work. Okay. And obviously, there's an interest in trying to preserve as best we can a historic building. If something is identified as is in consideration of being removed, I mean, that's certainly a different criteria. If it's on a national or state registry, there's got to be issues that are approached from that standpoint as well. So I think we got to get a handle on those before we can try and do this, but it's something to look at and possibly get ready for If it is viable, get it ready for introduction on the 9th.
I have a question. So if this, assume we can figure out the timing, and this goes to an application goes to historic preservation, and they look at it, and they write a report, and they say, no, we don't want this building demolished.
That's not in there. That really isn't in their purview.
So what happens? I mean, that's my.
Well,
what
that's the whole
happens
issue. That's why I was talking about the criteria that is given to the building departments to consider when granting or denying a demolition permit, and we got to get a full handle on that. I mean, not that I know where to look, but I really think the conversation is with our building department. What do you look at when there is a historic building as the subject of a demolition permit? And if it is registered, where are the controls to make sure that if it's going to get demolished, it's demolished for the right reason? So we got to put those in order before we can really see if the HPC is going to be able to give a comment on what goes on with regard to this that's going to have any meaning. So that's what you want.
So we need to find out more before
we need to do more work on it. So.
And when we talk about historic building or a historic home, are we only talking about those that are on the state or federal register?
No.
Well,
or is it broader than that?
No, because our historic element has homes that are historic within districts in Ridgewood. Those homes are not necessarily on state or national registries. Many times, and I think one house in particular, homes that are on the state and national registry, many instances are actually put there by the homeowner.
Right.
So they are doing that. And I think infamously we had one, and I'm looking at Tony because for the life of me, it's escaping me, which the name of the house.
Vanderbeck.
Yeah, Vanderbeck. So, thank you. So that one was actually placed on state and national by the homeowner. And I, for the life of me, can't remember why they came to HPC for an application. Oh, because they were going to redo a house. They were going to raise it. They were going to knock down the house and rebuild. But as we were sitting there, I'd realized that they were actually a pre-existing non-conforming grandfathered use. So if they knocked down the house, they couldn't put. They were not going to be able to. They were going to be able to build like a little dollhouse on the thing. They couldn't build anything, which then resulted in the house being saved. And if we consider that a renovation, it was renovated. So they couldn't knock it down because then they would just have an empty lot. They would never have been able to do anything. So those homes are typically done by the state, by the homeowner.
Yeah. But so there will be a not necessarily a list, but certainly a possible difference in the way that they get approached, depending upon whether they are registered or not. And even though they fit into the villages category, they may not be registered, so that criteria may be different, will probably be different from the criteria for demolition if they are registered historical. So what in our historic element of our master plan is every district, the houses. It's an amazing read for everyone, but that's what the interest is. And the only other question is whether or not we're going to keep it limited to residential historic quality homes, or do we going to get into commercial buildings? Anything that's historic. I mean, I would just have to think that anything that's appearing within a district or identified within our, we have an inventory in our historic element, and we're putting energy into this, and we want to make certain that it's preserved. And one of the things that we found is that so many changes, not always necessarily demolition, but actual physical changes to a structure result in it becoming unrecognizable. So I think it's a fair.
Yeah, I would appreciate the broader protection.
Right. So whatever
so
you
can certainly, if we want to put this on for next week, I can certainly speak to it again.
Yeah, I think we just need to know more before
more information.
Before we dive into this. So.
Okay.
Great.
Anything else? Anyone? That's it. Nothing on operations. So with that, we will go back to public comment, not to exceed 5 minutes per person. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, Cynthia Hallaby, 1 Franklin Avenue. I would just like to make a clarification. The 4 projects that the Conservancy has done and has presented to you as a 501c3 corporation, the typical procedure was to come to you with drawings, with plans, with listings of plants, with everything that you would need to make a decision. And then each one of you would vote whether or not we would be allowed to do this. And rightly so. I mean, you need to have control. So we would go off, we would do the work, come back to you, and then gift it to the village. In turn, you would then all vote on it. And Heather Maylander would send the Conservancy a letter after each of those 2 events, not signed, but like a little grid, and it would say who had voted in favor and who had voted against it. So that is the procedure, if I may say so, for what a 501c3 goes through. So I don't think what you are asking is outrageous. You need the same rulings for all 501c3s.
Right.
Secondly, I'm a little concerned because somebody at the dais actually said that the memorial was filthy and covered in graffiti. And those were the words of somebody right standing, and I know I cannot mention the name. As of yesterday morning, it was not filthy and covered in graffiti. At the back of the pillar, there is one graffiti which is pale green. It's mirror image, I don't know what it says. When the Conservancy had the monument power washed 2 years ago, it became from night to day. It was just, it sparkled. But that one graffiti could not be removed because we didn't want to use any sort of acid that would affect the marble. So if I know you charged the manager to have it washed, I suggest very strongly that you get a professional who deals in marble, not just the lowest bidder from somebody who will come and power wash it. Now, much more seriously than that, the base of the monument needs to be repointed. Yes. I wrote many times, I would say 3 or 4 times, to the village manager to point this out. Because I never got an answer, I then wrote to Chris Rutishauser, never getting an answer from the building department. The base of that monument needs attention. I mean, the gaps are probably an inch wide. Water seeps through, nothing is being done. So this is a very good opportunity to tell you that A, get a professional cleaner of marble pillars and get somebody who will repoint it before the whole thing starts to cave in. All right?
You're absolutely right. I actually think I sent photos as well and was waiting for the repointing. Okay.
Jeannie Johnson, 325 Maston Place.
Could
Louder,
you speak
please?
up a little?
Sure. I'd like to correct the record. I was one of the founding members of the pedestrian plaza, which was spearheaded by former Mayor Ramon Heshe. And I can assure you that it was created to help every business, not just restaurants, in the Central Business District. And in order to survive, every business had to pivot during the new reality of COVID restrictions. Our community overwhelmingly supports the reopening of the pedestrian plaza, and since they are the people paying taxes in the village, their opinions should be considered. And by the way, there are many iterations that can be considered when reinstating the plaza. No one should hold sole power over the decision whether or not it should come back, and if it does, businesses will have to pivot again. There are hundreds of communities who have real data that supports initiatives like this, and they help businesses succeed. And as the old saying goes, cars don't shop, people do. It's a fact that pedestrians spend more money at more businesses than motorists do. In other words, motorists make appointments to shop at individual stores. They purchase their merchandise and leave. Pedestrians wander, they shop, eat, and linger here. The pedestrian plaza attracted money from communities all around Bergen County, and that's what our CBD wants, and it's what it needs. Who could object to that? I appreciate business owners' concerns, and I'm confident that a compromise can be made that will appease those in favor of and those who aren't in favor of the pedestrian plaza. And as far as my postings on social media, if they're incorrect, why text me? Wouldn't a better solution be to correct these inaccuracies in the comments section? Or better yet, why not communicate things more effectively to begin with? It's concerning when residents are constantly told that there is misinformation, disinformation, and a barrage of lies circulating around the village concerning Village of Ridgewood issues. Just set the record straight. I don't understand it. Let us know what's going on. Be transparent. And as far as my earlier comments, I don't think it's necessary to even address them because your response was adequate validation to my points. And again, I'd like us to move forward together and be kind and do good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony Damiano, 274 South Broad Street. I think we made the right decision to table this monument for the next meeting because I don't ever remember us, meaning the council, the community, rush into anything. We question, we critique, we comment, we criticize, and it is so important that this monument is placed properly, it is designed properly, and most importantly, it fits aesthetically within the landscape of the park. So I don't think we're quite there yet, and no offense to the Legionnaires, because this is a very, very important monument. But again, I'm glad we tabled this because I think it needs some work. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, Rurik Halaby, 1 Franklin Avenue. A question for Matt Rogers. Robert rules. They seem to work one way in this village council, where we cannot address Pam or Susan or Lorraine, but Susan can address any one of us, hurl any insult she can. I've been called a fraud. I've been called a liar. Siobhan was called a liar by Mike Seaton. Now, may I then pay people back in kind, Matt? I thought Robert rules would apply both ways. Am I correct or am I wrong?
Want me to answer? My understanding is that in our ordinances speak to it, that you are able to criticize a vote, a particular position, an action taken, and the like. What our ordinance really tries to qualify is the demeanor to not be disruptive, to not state things with either vulgarity or slander or impertinence or any of that type of behavior. And those are the things that we're trying to avoid.
Now, what if when she calls me a liar, is that okay?
Wait, please let.
So in that regard, that is what our ordinance speaks to when the members of the public come before the council and address the council. There are no particular regulations or ordinances that cover comments from the dais. So, to say Robert rules go both, if you read Robert's rules, and I haven't read them in a while, there's nothing that says that it goes both ways. It's a matter of conducting meetings and how to work it. So, but you are able to comment, to criticize, to tell somebody that they made a mistake or that they mistakenly approached something. But decorum and the words that are used, and the ability or the interest to try and prevent disruption of the meeting, is what what the controls are in there for. So that's really what we're looking at.
Okay. Now, as far as the 50 signatory petition, I suggest that Susan Knudsen pulls it back, because if you cannot bring it out and show it to people, then it becomes hearsay. Then you had no business talking to people about 50 merchants signed this petition, because unless you can prove it and show it to us, then it doesn't exist. Now, speaking of Shedler, you stated that by the spring of 2023 we'll have the playing field. Is that true? Where are the engineering drawings for the pertinent structures, for the parking lot? Where are the specs? Are they there? Can you show them? If I were to offer them, can I get them? Will you be in a position to have the field open by 2023? I don't think so.
What? I'm sorry.
Then, another thing I was going to say is that my wife and I happened to drive down to Summit, New Jersey, not knowing that. In fact, I've been telling the Chamber of Commerce and the et cetera, go to Summit, go to these big towns, and see how they work. Now, Summit is one dynamic town that was teeming with people. In fact, it took us 25 minutes to find a parking space. 25 minutes. Every shop was full, excepting for maybe 2 or 3. Great shops. And yes, they had this beautiful pedestrian plaza. And you know something? I bet 50 merchants did not sign a petition, an imaginary petition, saying that you cannot do that. Okay? So I really think this is what Ridgewood can be. Ridgewood is miserable, believe me. It's becoming, I've traveled all over the country. Ridgewood is becoming like one of these towns in the Midwest, kind of abandoned, with all the empty shops, etc. Now, as far as the aggregation, I know nothing about energy. But somehow, life tells me you have your cake and eat it too. You can't limit the price increase and then be able to lower it. And now talking to a fairly senior guy at Public Service, he mentioned how they were getting out of generation into just distribution. Why not invite them to come and talk to you? How can we minimize the cost in the long run to the village people? Why can't Public Service come and talk to us? What's wrong with that? Because they're getting out of generation anyway. They're just going to be a distribution company. They will distribute anything from anywhere. Now, one last thing. As far as the veterans, one of the most insulting moments that I have experienced with the veterans was last Memorial Day, when Susan Knudsen gets up there and takes over for 15 minutes, telling these veterans how, apologizing for the shoe wear, that she wasn't wearing formal shoes, she was wearing sneakers because she had sprained her ankle. Here she is talking honoring 1 million people who died, and by extension, tens of millions of people who got injured. And the idea of regaling these people about your swollen ankle is just ridiculous. And frankly, since the mayor of Ridgewood is not voted by the people, it is selected by you as a first among equals, I think anything a mayor should speak should be clear to all of you. You can't have someone stand up from the village council and to spend 12, 15 minutes regaling people about their swollen ankle. Memorial Day, one of the holiest days of the year, was an insult to the group. Plus, in all candor, no one is against a memorial for the Gold Star mothers, believe me. But this idea of rushing it down our throat just for you to get about 30 votes is just ridiculous. It's an insult to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Hallaby.
Thank you.
Hi, Leo Ruan, 705 Kingsbridge Lane, Ridgewood.
Excuse me, Leo, could you speak up just a little bit? Thank you so much.
Hi, sorry. Leo Ruan, 705 Kingsbridge Lane, Ridgewood. So I'm just up here because I seen on the line item tonight for the Kingsbridge Lane Bridge. And thank you, Mayor, for coming out a couple of weeks ago to talk to a couple of the residents around the location, finding our needs. I'm glad to hear that there's some, finally, after 18, 20 months, some progress being made. Will this design proposal, will that be made public and we'll be able to view it just to see what it's like when the actual proposal is carried through? And I suppose another thing would probably, like, as residents, if you can deliver in a newsletter or an email, how long will this process take? These are some of the questions that the local community have around the bridge.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll answer that in a minute. Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment?
Russell Ferenza, 228 Emma Place, Ridgewood. I wasn't really planning to be here tonight, but however. I want to go back over some comments that were made after I finished speaking, and I didn't realize that Councilwoman Perrone was running for election. I didn't know that because my comments were made to the people that were running for election. So I apologize, but I didn't know you were running.
No, I'm just a proud alum of.
I'm sorry?
I'm just proud to be an alumna of the U.S. Attorney's
and I
Office.
wasn't referring you to resign. I was talking about that other person should resign from running for council. That's what I was talking about. So your comment to me about resigning, that, I thought was inappropriate to me because I wasn't asking for your resignation. Okay? Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we got that straight, all right? I'm not against you at all. As far as the CFO is concerned, he's correct. I hate to see prices going up, believe me, but he's stuck between a hard and a hard place. After doing budgets for 25 years, I know exactly where he's coming from. As far as the energy aggregation, stay with PSE&G. Believe me, don't go with somebody else. They may look fine now, or whatever the case may be. I don't know what all the particulars are, but if it's moving out from PSE&G, don't do it. And as far as bids, if you do go that way, tell them to send out 2 bids, 2 separate bids, one for this and one for that, and get all the replies back. He can send out 10 different bids if he wants. That's how you do it. Make them come back and answer your questions, whatever you want. Go every way you want. Send out as many proposals or bids, whatever you like. As far as pilot agreements, if they're dealing with pilots in a major city in the state of New Jersey, don't do them. If they got to go to a pilot agreement, that means they can't pay their taxes, and they don't want to pay their taxes, or they want to avoid it, and they're going to give you some long story about how good it is, what they're doing, and everything. Pilot agreements are no good for a town like this. So they got to do a pilot agreement in Ridgewood, forget about them. As far as the street closings are concerned, you got to help all. You can't discriminate against anybody. If it's not helping everybody and it's discriminating against some, it's nice when it's all closed, people walk around, but hey, other people got businesses, and if they're losing business and they're not getting foot traffic because of that, because nobody's going down their streets, forget about it. You can't do it. It was an emergency, and that's why it was set up. And as far as who runs the council, it's whoever's ever in charge. In this particular instance, the mayor. After sitting at council meetings for 25 years, that person up there who's in charge controls the whole meeting. No matter what anybody in the audience thinks or whatever any other council person thinks, or the mayor or the business administrator or the legal counsel, that person runs the meeting. Everybody takes the direction from that person, no matter who it may be. So if any of you other people are the leader, and for the audience to know, that's the leader, and that's the end of the story. There's no comment, there's no argument about it. That's what they're there to do, and I've known that for 25 years because, believe me, I ran afoul of that a lot of times, and I got put in place many times. But thank you all. You all do a good job, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure the residents appreciate that because it's a hard job being up there. And after watching it for 25 years, and I'll mention the city, it's the city of Patterson, and believe me, there's 9 council people, and there's a mayor. So you got 10 people to deal with that I have to deal with all the time, and at that time, I'm retired now. So it's a big problem, and you got the business administrator and everybody else, and Heather, you do an outstanding job, and the village attorney, Matt, does an outstanding job along with you people. So congratulations to you all. Just listen to me. I don't get mad. I go home at night and sleep. So no matter what it is, I'm finished for the day. Have a nice evening, folks.
Thanks, Ross.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Susan Rowan, 705 Kingsbridge Lane. We live on the other side of Ridgewood, Kingsbridge Lane. So we have been seeing the Schindler property being renovated and transformed recently, which we want to thank you for the trees and the fence. It's getting to look nicer and nicer every time we drive by. And we're looking forward to it being
I'm sorry,
open.
Susan, I can't quite hear you. If you could put that close to your mouth, that would be great.
Maybe I'll take. Okay. Can you hear me better now?
So much better, thank you.
All right, and I want to thank the council for approving the repair of the Kingsbridge or East Saddle River footbridge. My house is right beside the footbridge, so we see the people who use it. The mayor, came down, thank you, one time to come visit after I posted something about a cinder block being added to the footbridge. People still cross even with the cinder block, and including some of the track teams. So I'm waiting for a sprained ankle because there's holes on that bridge that need to be repaired. So I want to thank the mayor for spearheading a quicker response to the footbridge versus putting it for I think it was wheelchair accessible. The other side, East Saddle River, has no sidewalk. So to have it be wheelchair accessible was not even a good idea. I understand bringing things up to code, but that meant reconstructing a whole side of the street. Again, like my husband said, we want to make sure when will it be finished, because we still see people crossing. The alternatives are much more dangerous. They're going down Route 17, the overpass, the highway to get to the bus. We've seen kids walking the whole ways down to Bogart. So the alternatives are not ideal. So, the quicker that bridge is finished, the better it is for, the safety of a lot of people. I don't use it, but I know other people do. And even with this, I still wouldn't use it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else public comment? Going once, twice, closing public comment, and I'm just going to respond to a couple of items. I believe, as it relates to PSE&G coming to a meeting to explain anything or to pitch their own product, I believe for some reason, and because I called them early on in the aggregation process, I believe that they are not permitted by law to engage in pitching their product. I think there's a reason that they don't, but we can certainly find out and ask them if they'd like to come to the meeting and talk to us. In terms of posting on Facebook, I don't think that it's possible for a person to monitor social media. I actually don't believe that burden of accurate information should be shifted to me. I think the burden of accurate information should be on the person posting it, to make certain before you put it to thousands of people that the information provided is entirely accurate, especially as for people who hold themselves out as so-called community leaders. So to speak specifically about the post, September 20th, it said $7 million, 7 years later, mismanagement, spearheaded, over budget, Shedler project. Not one sentence was true. It is the obligation of the individual making the post, holding themselves out as the reporting entity to thousands of people as an administrator to a Facebook page to get the information right. It's your obligation, but I did notify you immediately. However I did it, that's just the way it is. And with that, Leo, proposal, I think that is public record, public document. Can Leo get a copy of the proposal for the for that. So just send an email to the village clerk's office. They'll consider it an Oprah request. And if you have any problems, just give a call. With that, we'll take...
Before we close, I'd like to make a comment. And I've spoken to several people in the audience about this. The idea of decorum at these meetings is critical. We are neighbors. No one understands better than I do that when we feel strongly about something, we speak passionately. But regardless of what's happened, we must all, everyone in this room, must speak respectfully. There is no exception to that. I challenge anyone, I've only been here for 1 year, to find a time when I did not speak respectfully. I ask everyone, and everyone makes a mistake, I get that. Let's all redouble our efforts to try and speak respectfully, passionately, powerfully, but respectfully, so that we can continue this, what do they call it? Experiment in democracy, so that we can continue to come back week after week, month after month, year after year, and try and make this village an even better place.
Thank you, Paul. I'd actually like to add to that it's not only words and what you speak. It's also your actions. It's what you engage in. It's what you participate in. It is what you put into the world, whether social media or by mail. So, yeah, let's all be respectful. It's a great opportunity to have that conversation.
I just want to say one thing. I have seen the petition as well. So, and I can understand after seeing the people that signed it, why they don't want it out in the world. I believe that those businesses, including restaurants, are afraid.
There's a lot of restaurants.
And they do not want their names plastered all over the place. But I have seen it. I have seen the signatures. It exists.
And it is a lot of restaurants. It's restaurants out of the pedestrian mall. It's businesses, both inside and outside, services, both inside and outside. But the number of restaurants is actually kind of interesting. In any event, with that...
I'd like to say something.
Okay.
Hearsay is inherently unreliable, and I will not make any decisions based on hearsay.
You know, it's a great point. And actually, at the debate, one of the candidates said that he spoke to multiple businesses who were all in favor, but the businesses that are on the petition have now attempted to email him 3 times and he hasn't responded. So lots of hearsay out there. I have a petition. In any event, let's take a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Be it resolved by the
Resolution to
Village
go into
Council
closed
of the Village of
session.
Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on October 26, 2022, 7:30 p.m. or soon thereafter as a matter on the agenda can be reached. And the said closed session be held in the 4th floor caucus room of Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. Be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to contract negotiations, PBA. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 and be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thanks.
How did they know you were coming in?